catching a reflection in the mirror of something standing in the corner of my room, watching me, observing me. Is it my imagination or insanity? A strange hum, a flash of light. I'm overcome, nothing but fright. Otherworldly beings taking me in the night. I'm an extraterrestrial hostage tonight. I wanna run, but I can't move. What do I do? What do I do? Where are they taking me? Where are they taking me? I'm an extraterrestrial hostage tonight. I wanna run, but I can't move. I don't feel real. I wake up in my bed. Was it just in my head? Looking at my hand, there's something there. Inside of me, I'm feeling oh so scared. Confusion and nasty fear. It wasn't just a nightmare. So loud, so bright, hypnotizing me figures lost in time. I'm tortured, surrounding me tonight. I'm an extraterrestrial hostage tonight. I wanna run, but I can't move. What do I do? What do I do? Where are they taking me? Where are they taking me? I'm an extraterrestrial hostage tonight. I wanna run, but I can't move. I don't feel
And this is PRT. Join us in the real reality. Guys, tonight is very important. It's a big show for us tonight. This is 400th live stream. 400, episode 400, right? This isn't counting like the little, whatever, hey, this is an announcement or we're talking, whatever. This is 400 live streams we've done. So this is a big one. It's a big deal for us. And so everybody, I'm glad you're here. I hope everybody's happy, had a good weekend. This is the best way to end the weekend. Really, really scared before you go to bed. That's how you're going to end the weekend. Give me 1 second, folks. All right, folks, a little technical difficulties there. Trying to get everything together here. So there's a few things I want to go over tonight. We got 264 people here. We're going to start. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. This is a big one because this is our 400th episode. It's our 400th episode of live streams. How many do we have on the pre-records? How many episodes we got on that?
Oh, the pre-records, we have 300. Let's see. 312?
312 pre-records. Jeez Louise. I was looking today, man, and on the Messenger, I got like 3 really good stories over the last 2 days. And but I haven't got to talk to the people and flesh them out. But I was like, dang, those would be some bangers. But I got some tonight. Let me dig my notes out here, folks. Give me 1 second. Paranormal potluck tonight. And just like the description says, we're going to be talking about all of this, alternate realities, ghosts, everything. I mean, Bigfoot, Dogman. We're going to go over it. We're going to get into it right now. Gotta find my notes here. So before we get started, though, I want to introduce you to someone. This is interesting. Come here. Come on. You're going the wrong way. Hold on 1 second. Give me 1 second. There we go. All right, guys. I want to introduce you to somebody very special. This is our sweet baby. Can we say hi? Can we say hi? Look at those eyes. Look at those beautiful blue eyes. She's such a pretty dog. These are cow dogs. These are border collies. Cooper, don't mess with that. And so this here is Ezie or Evie. We started off calling her Evie, but Nellie used to have a dog named Ezie, so we named her Ezie. Mm-hmm. That dog's still alive. She lives in California, but this is baby Ezie. Ezie, you want to say hi?
Ezie 2.0.
So how old are you, Ezie? You want to tell everybody? I'm 8 weeks. She's an 8-week-old puppy. So here's the thing about Ezie. This is a very interesting thing. Let me put her down.
She communicates telepathically.
She knows,
but only in Latin for some reason.
She knows Bigfoot. So here's the thing that's interesting about Ezie. I want to say, Ezie was born. Now, in my opinion, I don't know for sure 100% because nobody can really tell. But when we got her, thank you for the donation. We appreciate this donation. She wasn't responding to anything visually, no stimulation. Like we started to notice it after like the second day, remember?
Yeah.
And you remember that, Nellie?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we go to put the finger toward the eye, and there's like this. It's like she's not even. You could have touched her eyeball. No response. No response at all. And so I talked to Nellie about it. Nellie's here in the studio. She's right here. And we talked about it, and we were like, hey, Ezie appears to be blind. She was bumping into things. She really could not see where she was going. And she could hear you. You snap your fingers. She would turn her head in that direction, but she wouldn't blink. If you went like this to her face, you did like that, nothing, no response at all. Visually, no response. Okay. Now, what I'm going to tell you, you may think this is just absolutely crazy or I'm just making this up, but I promise you, this is the truth. You want to say hi, Nellie? You want to say hi to the people?
Yeah. Hi.
Oh my God. There you go.
You're behind the
Yeah, I'm not moving.
thing
My phone's
here.
up there.
Just say hi.
Hello. I don't know if my mic's on.
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah, it's on, but they can't see you because this thing is in your face. It's in your way.
I can't move it right now.
You can't move it? Can you just, okay.
I'll put my dog
All right.
right here.
So anyways, Nellie's got a thing, I think. But anyways, so the dog could not see. All right. So we prayed for the dog. We prayed for the dog. You're supposed to lay hands. And I've been doing this my whole life. I know that it works. I know that it works. And you're going to think it's crazy unless you're initiated and you've seen this before. The first time I prayed for her, and I prayed in earnest, and I visualized what I wanted, and I prayed to God through Christ. And this is just me, is what I do. And so it seemed like it helped. It seemed like it actually, it turned her around. But she was still not responding completely. It was, how would you describe it, honey? Like she started to, like, how would you describe it?
Laura Ingalls' sister.
Okay, so like Mary? No, what we're talking about is Laura Ingalls' sister on Little House on the Prairie. Okay, not Little House on the Prairie. Like, how would you just?
You couldn't see. I mean, you could touch her eyeballs. I mean, not that we did, but
Oh, I'm talking about Laura Ingalls' sister. I was like, where did they do that on Little House on the Prairie? They were touching her eyeballs. Like, Mary, come on now. What are you doing? Why we can touch your eyeballs? She's like, Dad, I can't see. Well, why are you broken? Laura can see. Why are you? He's gonna, she's gonna marry Almanzo. It's gonna be great. Why are you doing this? No, seriously, Little House on the Prairie beside, but seriously, it was scary because, so we took her to the vet.
she wasn't reacting to anything visually.
Visually, nothing. And the veterinarian told Anthony and me, we were in there, and we were there, and what did they say, Anthony? 90%. What was it?
Well, so we took her in, and the vet looked at her and said that, like,
Come on, Cooper.
that vet was like 90% sure that she was blind.
Yeah.
Like just completely blind, couldn't see anything because she did the visual
You can
test
move over
too.
a little bit. You're like cut
They
off.
did touch her eyeball. No, I'm just kidding.
They did
Well,
not touch her.
No, I
I'm
mean
joking.
they got kind of close, but like, yeah, they got close enough to where they basically diagnosed her like, yeah, this puppy's blind.
Yeah, and so we were heartbroken. And so we talked to the people we got her from, and we told them that she was blind. And I'm not going to say anything bad about the people. They raise these dogs, and they live out in the country. And it's not like a puppy mill, but they have several of these, litters, and one of them just urinated on the floor. So I don't know which. I think it might have been Cooper. Cooper's in here too. Y'all have met Cooper. You want to get Cooper and say hi? Let Cooper say hi.
Where's the
Cooper.
So I'll tell you the whole story of how we ended up with her and Cooper. We ended up with, hold on a second. Somebody says, is Tony doing a puppet show? No, Tony will be back. Tony had to go and run. We ordered food and they messed it up. So he ran to go replace it. But yeah, so Ezie was blind, at least we think she was 100%. And so we called the people, and they were like, hey, it's okay. You don't got to mess with it right now. We'll get it. It's a very small spot. They're not very big. Cooper and Ezie are right here below me. And so they love me. They absolutely love me. And they love Nellie. Boy, they love Nellie B. And they love Anthony too. They're very loving dogs. But you know who doesn't love them? Elvira. Elvira is not having it. Baby, our other dog, and the other dogs love him. Martis will even play with him. Panzer can't stand him, and neither can Elvira. And it's funny because I saw Elvira and Panzer today. They were just kind of like talking about it. They were just like, look at that. Look at Cooper. Cooper. What's up, Cooper?
What's up, Cooper kid? Hi.
He's got that goofy look on his face. So we took them to the vet, and they said, hey, so I called them, and they said, hey, we can replace the dog. And so my wife, being the way she is, she's like, what are you going to do with the other dog, with this dog?
No, I was just like, no.
Or did I ask the question? I asked the question, what are you going to do with this one? Where we give it back and you give us a different one? Well, it's a blind puppy. What are they going to do with it? Nobody's going to want it. Nobody can. So Nellie was like, we are going to keep that dog. But if we are going to keep the dog, we need to have another dog, and they had more than one litter. They had like 3 or 4 litters or whatever. And they were going quick, so we said, hey, we'll take another puppy, but we're not giving this one back if it's going to be put away. We're not going to do that. And so we decided, we prepared ourselves. We're like, we're going to raise a blind dog. As simple as that. So then we got Cooper, and he was with her for about 2 days, and you could see that he could see. She could not. And I'm not even joking, man. I'm 99% sure she was blind, and it wasn't something that was just going to go away. So I prayed over her, and I begged God. I said, God, please, let this dog see. I want her to have the ability that all dogs, deserve. I love animals, man, and Joanne, yes, it is possible to train blind dogs. It sure is. It's not out of the realm of whatever, but with our hectic lifestyle, it's like, man, it's going to be really hard. I'm going to have a lot of work to do, and it's going to take a lot of special, care. And so we ended up getting Cooper. Couple days in, I prayed again. Like I said, I prayed again, and I kid you not, this dog started to react to visual stimulation almost immediately. And I told Nellie, I said, I think it worked. I think God answered our prayers. We haven't talked about it yet because we were waiting for a special time, and here it is, the 400th episode, and I wanted to tell you guys, that's a testament to the power of God. That's a testament to the power of prayer. It does work, absolutely works. And I believe that that's a miracle dog. Ezie is a miracle. And now with Cooper here, they play constantly, and she's got a companion, and her and Cooper were just meant to be buddies, and be friends or whatever. They're from 2 different litters, but they're a day apart, and they're wonderful dogs. Hi, Crystal Cook. How you doing? Crystal Cook, a personal friend of the family. We know her personally. Lives in Austin. But yeah, and I do believe that's a miracle. I believe that's what it was. And so, yes, fruition, a blessing. Right? Let me see, show the dogs again. You want to pick her up over the thing you got there? You want to move that thing just for a minute so people can see her? There you go. You just move that thing out of the way. Just move that thing out of the way. There you go. So, anyways,
put the Dogman down.
The Dogman's kind of in the way. There we go. There you go. And he's right in the way there. Beautiful, beautiful dogs, and we love them. Like I said, our other dogs and cats are adjusting. Story likes them. Story the ferret.
They like her. They like Story.
She loves to play with them. Leo doesn't really play with them much. And who else has been in the house? Like I said, Martis is okay with them. Truffles is out at the farm, so he doesn't know them, and we're going to introduce them to Truffles and Beans. Pretty soon they're going to be out at the ranch. So, yeah, that's what's happening.
Is the camera off? Of them? Okay, I'm gonna put Ezie down.
Yeah. Yeah, Ezie's a sweetheart. But here she comes. You come over here with me? Hmm? Yeah, she's a sweetheart. She'll be right here by me probably the whole show, both of them. But yeah, right there. What are you guys doing? All right. So, anyways, folks, let's get started on the show. What do we got here? 391 people. Let's get going here. First thing we're going to talk about here. Now, everybody, we know we've talked about alternate realities and all this weird stuff. I want to start off with this one. And the reason I want to start with this one, we were at the gun show yesterday in Round Rock at the Embassy Suites. And we were talking to some police officers, well, former law enforcement. And they were police officers in a couple different places. And the one guy, shout out to Raul. I want to get him to come on the show and tell his story. I think he's going to do it. I told him to come on Monday. He can jump in on, tomorrow we'll be doing everybody telling their stories and stuff. Here's what's crazy. Like he had an encounter that just kind of blew my mind. Like just, when you hear like law enforcement officers or first responders in any way talk about the weird, crazy things that happened to them, and that they're just telling you what happened, we've had people tell us stories from, hey, Ezie. We've had people tell us stories from paramedics to firefighters to police officers to correction officers, all kinds of stuff, security of all kinds. You can only imagine. But it was interesting. So when we were talking, we ended up getting into some weird stuff, and I told him this story that had happened. Now, this guy that gave me this story, his name was Manny. And Manny had done something he wasn't supposed to do. He was 16 years old. It was the day after his 16th birthday, or the day before his 16th birthday. So he was 15, basically. Technically. Let me get a drink here. So what happened with this guy? This is crazy. He was down in Alice, Texas. You know what, Alice? We've talked about it. He sent me this story because his buddy told him, hey, man, there's this guy and he talks about all this weird stuff. And some of the times he talks and he's mentioned Alice on the show. Alice, Texas is like the gateway to the South. Well, people say it's San Antonio, but I don't agree. I think it's just the gateway to the valley. Let's put it that way. I think Corpus is kind of like the gatekeeper, but Texas is big. It's a big place. And so here's what happened to him. He goes into a liquor store when he was 16 years old, and he boosts a bottle of liquor, and he walks out. Now, he goes, when I was 15, 16, he goes, I looked like a grown man. I had a mustache and a beard, He's like my age, man. So this was like a long time ago, back in the 90s. And he goes, dude, I go in there, and he goes, and my friend, he was like, let's get some booze, man. So my friend goes in there, and to justify us being in there, my friend was 17, and my other friend was 15 like me, but I was his two guys are brothers, 15-year-old and a 17-year-old. The 17-year-old goes and grabs some Cokes, takes him up to the counter, pays for it, and then him and his buddy walk out. He goes, it's warm. He's like, it's late April, but it's a warm day, and I'm wearing a trench coat. Pretty much a dead giveaway that I'm stealing. Now, this guy, he's turned his life around, man. This guy became a corrections officer and did all kinds of stuff, whatever. And then later on became now he lives in Del Rio, but he works on boats and stuff like that. And he fishes constantly. That's what he does. He's fishing competitions, all kinds of stuff. But got an interesting life, When we were talking, now this ties into what we were talking about with Sibylla Irwin. If y'all remember that episode just a couple days ago on Friday. Me and Sibylla were talking about how, people have these things that happen to them and it changes them. It turns their life around and they start to see things and hear things that they didn't hear or see before. And that's kind of what happened to this guy. But this is what happened to him. This was the first real experience that he had. And he had others, but we have to move on. We can't just keep talking about all of his stuff. He's got a lot. Somebody's asking about Cash App. Nelly says you don't have Cash App. Yes, we do.
Anthony, not for the show.
Not for the show, but we do have a Cash App. If you want to go to Messenger and communicate with Anthony or Nelly, you can.
Or Maddie just posted the PayPal link to you.
Yeah,
you
PayPal.
can send it.
But I mean, if you only have Cash App, that's fine too. If you want to help out with the show, we appreciate it. Anything you can do helps, helps keep us going.
I don't know how to put the Cash App link up there.
No, I don't know how to push Cash App link. You can send it message to me, or you can email me or whatever. And Anthony, you can deal with it. Anthony, they look at the email too. So, but here's the thing. What happened to Manny was incredible. Now, I would say unbelievable, but that's not the right words, because I know this happens to people. It happens to people. He took that bottle, and then when the guy at the counter saw that, he was like, hey, he knew he took something. He came out running kind of after him, behind him. It was an Indian guy. And the dude was like, he knew that he had taken something. And he's like, you took something. And that guy was just like, looked like behind him. He goes, I'm 16 years old, dude. He goes, I just booked. I just took off. I ran. They're getting into something over there. So they ran. All of them. They all ran in different directions. He goes, I ran straight across this road and then onto a highway and then into a field. He goes, and then I ran and I jumped down into a ditch and ran down by a creek. He goes, I just kept going. He goes, but as fate would have it, a sheriff's department officer was driving by when I crossed the highway, and he saw me running. So he turned his car around and took off, and he drove through those fields and then jumped out and was yelling at him to stop. And he followed him. He's like, he could have followed the other two guys. One of them had booze too. He's like, the brothers that I was friends with, my neighbors. He goes, but he chose to follow me. He's like, and so I ran. He goes, and we lived kind of out in the country, so I was heading toward my house. He's like, but then he goes, I look up, and it was 3 p.m. when this happened. He did it early. And he's like, I look up, and it's like dark. And he's like, and I looked up, man, and the sky was dark. He's like, and then next thing you know, I see lights all around me. There's 3 vehicles that converged on me, and their lights around me. He goes, and I was in so much shock. I was like, how did it get dark? He goes, I didn't even question at that time. I didn't even know. It was just dark. He's like, and I look around, and there are these 3, police officers. He thought they were police officers, all in black with these helmets on. And he's like, they're talking, and one of them is like speaking over this loudspeaker, and the voice, it sounds like if you were to make your voice, like put it through a synthesizer, like electronic.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like that, and it was just like, you need to stop. This is, law enforcement. And he thought it was weird when one of them said, this is Officer 249 something or another. And he was like, what? The sheriff's department deputy was nowhere around.
It was like some Judge Dredd.
Dude, it was
stuff,
weird.
dude.
Yeah. And he goes, and I don't have no vivid imagination, dude. He told me this. He's like, he goes, I was looking around like, what the heck is going on, Holmes? Straight up, man. He's like, dude, and I don't know what was going on. He goes, but these beings, these people were dressed in black. They had these black helmets on. They had visors on, kind of like riot helmets. He's like, and one of them came up and literally put his arm on me. He goes, and it shocked the crap out of me. And he squeezed my arm, and he was squeezing so hard. He goes, I thought he was going to snap my arm. Oh, no, don't do that. I thought he was going to snap my arm like a twig. He's like, don't resist. And he says, okay. He goes, my heart was beating out of my chest. He goes, I'd never seen anything like this. He goes, and I'm like, who are these vatos? That's how he talked.
Yeah.
He's like, what are these vatos doing? What do they want? And he's like, are you police? And they're like, don't speak. And they had, one of them had this like just weird looking, triangular looking gun pointed at him. Like the barrel of it was like triangular. There were 3 holes. And he was just like, okay, man. And they were like, one more move out of you. One of them told him. Literally told him, you'll be terminated. And he was like, okay, I'm sorry. Please don't hurt me. And they're like, do exactly as you're told. Don't resist. He's like, and he lowered his head, and he this is what he did. He said, God, forgive me. I know I shouldn't have done this. And he's like, Jesus, help me. And this one of these beings told him, they're like, do not speak. And he's like, I wasn't speaking. And there was like something going into his head, like this thing could read his mind. And what it started telling him was to stop praying, that there was no prayer here, and that it was a criminal offense. and that he was going to be put away for a long time because taking of private property that belongs to the state. Everything belongs to the state, and you are not allowed to take it. The place that he had taken, whatever it was that he had taken, belongs to them, they said. That's all he remembers. Then he looks up, and there is police lights, dust everywhere, and this sheriff's office deputy is getting out of his car. He looks back, and there's another one coming from the distance. And he's like, where are these three beings that were grabbing me, telling me all this weird stuff, talking like robots? They're nowhere to be found. They're nowhere to be found. I'm looking around, and he goes, I was crawling toward the sheriff's deputy, and I said, look, I took this booze here, whatever. Take it back. I'm sorry. And it was a bottle of tequila. I'm like, ugh, you stole that? Yeah. Anyways. He takes the bottle of tequila out of his jacket. He says, I took this. I'm sorry. Please just take me to jail. And they were like, oh, you're going to jail.
Happy just to go to jail.
Yeah, he was happy. He goes, dude, those beings exuded evil in a way that I can't even describe to you. And he's like, I don't know what happened. I don't know where I was at. I don't know why I encountered those beings. He's like, but it made me terrified. He goes, the whole time I was in juvie, I would tell people about this. And he's like, and eventually I got out of juvie and I never got in trouble again. I never did anything stupid like that again. He goes, and I changed my life. I turned it around. He's like, I have two kids, two sons and two daughters. He goes, and I tell them all, don't commit crimes. Don't do things like that. He's like, dude, it was insane. And so I don't know. He asked me about it if I had heard, and he had some experiences since then, but we're not going to talk about them tonight. But Manny has some multiple experiences. And he told me, he says, dude, have you ever had anybody tell you stories like that? And I said, yeah. People falling into like alternate realities. Mm-hmm. We've had a guy on the show that literally claims that he walked into a portal and this is not his timeline. I don't know if you guys remember Anthony Ceballos. He runs a group called Wraith Hunters. Mm-hmm. And it's out of San Antonio. So me and the police that were former police officers were exchanging stories. And he was telling us about a military installation in San Antonio. What was it called? Fort Bullis?
Yeah, I think he said Bullis. Something along those lines.
Yeah, and that place, he claimed that one of the guards there had come to him to try to get a really large caliber gun because he had claimed to have seen something like a werewolf. They told us this yesterday at the gun show. We started talking about it. And he says he hears stories like that. He personally had never seen it. Hey guys, what are you guys doing? What are you doing, Ezie? Don't chew on that.
Looking for some trouble to get into.
Yeah, don't chew. Those are cords. Don't do that. But so these guys were telling us all these stories or whatever, and oh, you're missing the pad. You're missing the pad. That's great. That's lovely. So anyway, puppies. And, I told him, I said, there are people who have told us stories like, and what he saw was, I'll just let him tell it. Eventually I get him on the show and he'll tell it. Camp Bullis, that's where it was at. Where people claim to see like werewolves, Dogman. In that area too of San Antonio, we've gotten lots of stories of weird stuff, ghosts, cryptids, all kinds of things. But yeah, so that's Manny's. That's one of his stories. After that happened to him, he started having weird stuff. Now I'll finish up his with this. When he was locked up in juvie, he had someone come to visit him that he claims was like an angel. And he asked this angel, he came out of a deep sleep, and this angel, this being was standing right there and talked to him. And he told that angel, he says, look, man, I know I'm bad. I've committed sins. I've done wrong. I'm not doing good. I'm not a good person, whatever. Because, but I want to change. And this being told him, he's like, where was I at? The being told him, he says, you were on Earth, but a different Earth. The message he took away from that, because he talked to the being just kind of like gave him images, didn't really speak after that. The message he took away from it was things can always be worse.
Yeah.
So he took himself on the mercy of the law, and they gave him a slap on the wrist. He was a kid. They let him go, and that was it. So, 1 second. So we're wrangling up the puppies here. Tony just came back. So what do you guys think of that? What are your thoughts on this?
So those hang on. My mic was off. So those things that he encountered, those whatever, those robot police, whatever, that law enforcement from that alternate timeline, those things, they sound very similar to these beings called the Dream Police, which I've heard of from a different story. Like I was watching videos of like what people see and what they go through when they abuse Benadryl, because the active ingredient in it, and I forget the name of that ingredient, but it's a deliriant. So after, like, in high enough dosage, it becomes like almost like psychedelic, but and it's like they perceive things on the astral plane or in some other some other plane of existence, but it's always only ever like bad negative entities, like they never get to that altered state of mind on Benadryl and see good things. So but like one of these guys' experiences was that he had gone, like, he'd just taken it so far and like just went to this like way far off plane of existence, whether it's an alternate reality or a different vibrational plane, whatever it is, and he encountered what he described as the Dream Police, which and he was so scared by it, he didn't want to go into too much detail like describing them, but all he said was like that these are like these cosmic enforcement entities, these beings, which their job is to guard certain realms, certain areas, so that people can't go through there, and if you enter their AO, there are severe and immediate consequences. And it scared him so bad that he stopped abusing Benadryl after that.
Well, and that's funny because this guy, before he did what he did, he was smoking marijuana, but it wasn't just pot. He was doing other things too.
Yeah,
like he wasn't doing it like right before he did this, but he was into like huffing paint and doing all kinds of other stupid things, which if he would have kept doing it, would have eventually destroyed enough brain cells to make you wouldn't come back from it.
Yeah.
And so he said, dude, after he got out, he went straight. There was nothing. He did nothing. He goes, I stayed at home a lot.
Yeah.
Because I did. I went to work with my dad, he goes, and my dad had a job out in the oil fields, and I went out with him, started working on an oil rig when I got old enough to. And then from there, he goes, I moved to Del Rio. I met my wife. I moved to Del Rio, started like a fishing business out there. And there's a lake out there. And he was like, he would go out there and take people out there. And, and so, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Here's a weird thing that happened to him too. Like, we're not going to get into a bunch of his story. He has a bunch of stuff, but he went out deep sea fishing and they ran out of gas. Him and two of his buddies, and they were floating out there, and the Coast Guard couldn't find them for 2 days. 2 days. He goes, we were about maybe 2 miles out.
Were they at least
they just drifted further and further out?
Were they at least in one of those boats with a roof covering?
Yeah, they weren't like dying in the sun.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a nice big boat. But damn, dude. And then he goes, it took the Coast Guard 2 days to find us, man. He goes, we weren't on their radar for some reason. He goes, and the third day when they did find us, it was storming. It was not overly hot. He goes, it was May. But he goes, lucky for them, he was found. He goes, but it wasn't until I stopped panicking and started praying. He goes, and that was when I really started getting serious about God. He goes, because God answered my prayer on that one. He goes, I was just like, why can't they find us? And then they kept going out of communication. And the Coast Guard told them it was really weird because they would be on their radar, then they would lose them, and then they would show up somewhere else. And then they would show, and they just kept drifting further and further out until they were almost 5 miles out. But they were just right there. 5 miles is not that far. But it was 2 days it took them. And he really believes that there was something demonic that began to follow him and kind of mess with him after this whole thing. One of the things that I have heard, not just about this, like the dream police, like what you're talking about. I've interviewed people who have had encounters with these beings that I don't want to call them like dream police, but there was something I wanted to tell you whenever you were saying that. And I'm trying to think of what it was. Are the puppies next? Are they in there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just
Thankfully,
like,
we know what these noises.
Yeah, at least we know that now. We know that the noises are the puppies. So
at least we can just blame it on them. At least.
Yeah, we could just say that, But there was something else. There was this other like entity that had grabbed somebody. And I was trying to remember what it was, and it pertained to this. I remember the guy's last name. I can't remember his first name and what it was he told me. Do you remember the other night? Abe Cius has a show called Spiritual Encrypted Encounters, for those who don't know. And his cousin Jesse's on there all the time as his co-host. And he was talking about something having grabbed him and taken him under the bed. And it reminded me of this guy's story. Like I said, I remember his last name. I don't remember his first name. I can't remember. But it happened in Galveston. He was in Galveston. It had nothing to do with the ocean or anything, But he was in Galveston, and they were staying at this cabana, and he was like, something reached up and pulled him down out from and it was like, when he looked at this being, it had these like black eyes that opened up and kind of like swirled almost like robotically. And then they became like these glowing blue eyes. And he goes, it was weird. He goes, and I was like in the water. He's like, and I struggled and got free. And the next thing you know, he goes, I'm like swimming toward the lights of the cabana. He goes, I was a teenager. And he ended up getting to shore. And then he walked and he looks back, and there's this being that's kind of like sitting crab-like backwards with its head up. And he could see it was like a robot. And it looked like a robot. Then it just kind of turned its head and then flattened out like a manta ray looking thing. Yeah. And like swam back into the ocean. And he was like, what the freaking heck was that? So then as he's walking toward the cabana, he gets really sleepy and he lays down. He goes, I can't go any further. Then he wakes up and he's in his bed and it's daylight, and his cousins and everybody are like, hey, let's go swim. Let's go play. And he's just like, no, I'm good, man. He just laid there. And then he thought, man, that was a horrible dream. But then he realized his bed was like covered in sand and it was wet. So what was that? Like, he was trying to tell me about it and explain it to me. I forgot the guy's name, but anyways, he had like a very not specific name. It started with a J. Jared. His name was Jared. Uh-huh. So how was he start screaming? Oh, I remember now. Everybody rejoice. Yeah. My memory's not totally gone.
I can kind of anticipate when it's going to happen at this point.
Yeah. I'm sitting there trying to remember, and then when I remember, I yell. Yeah. Sorry, folks.
I know exactly.
I do that too, though.
I imagine him like the little person in his head just flipping through files. And he finds it.
Yeah.
He's like, I found it.
There's his name. I was going to say his last name over and over again, but I actually don't have. I don't really think he would mind. But I mean, I don't know how he feels about it. It was an email, and then we messaged back and forth, and he was just like, "Yeah, read it. Do whatever you want to do." There was another email I got that I wanted to actually read. Oh man, there was a lady. And see, this is the 400th episode, so we're just potlucking here.
Yeah.
But there was a lady who had sent me a story about a reptilian dude that did the same thing
in the ocean.
No. I read it to you. Mm-hmm. You remember we were doing the patrol a few days ago, and I said, "Oh, this lady sent me this story. It was recent. It was an email, and but it was a reptilian. You remember? It was on top. It climbed on top of this woman.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Because you're acting like you don't remember. I'm wondering if you don't remember that. Remember, we were at landing. And we were
I
driving
mean, keep
out.
telling it'll come to me.
Okay, but anyways, I started reading it like I had it on my lap because we were driving out, and I said I better put this away so I can drive and not wreck. But man, it was crazy. So anyway, her name was Stella, and she sent me a story of a reptilian that climbed. We might as well tell that one, dude. That one. It was just recent. Like I don't like to jump ahead too much because you got people who sent stories that are way back, going way back, you know. But hang on. Somebody just said that. I'll call someone in the middle of the night. It was Craig. Dude's name was Dude, I've done that. I've literally done that. I'll be like, I'll just, I'll tell Nelly, I'll be like, it was Jonathan. Jonathan, such and such. And she'll be like, oh.
Because it actually bothers you, though.
It does.
Like for me, it's just like, well, I forgot something. But like for you, it's like it comes back later on. Like, haha, you forgot that. You forgot that.
And it's like, how do you not remember that, dude? But anyway, it happens. It simply happens. You don't remember or whatever. But I had this person that emailed me, and I did not. I just read the story. Now I haven't spoken to this individual. The name on there was Stella W. I don't even know what the W stands for. But I got to tell this one. She was staying the night at her sister's place up in Seattle. I'm sorry, Tacoma, which is near Seattle. And she said that, she goes, my sister lived in Tacoma. She goes, I lived in Seattle, and I went down there to visit every now and then. I'd go, whatever. She's like, and my brother lived in Kirkland, so we were all like right there together. And she says it was crazy. She's like, I had experiences at both of their houses, but not at my place. She's like, I had an apartment. It was right next to the Safeway. And she's like, and I just walked every day to go get something to eat, go home, cook. And I'd stay, me and my dog, her dog's name was Penny. She said that. She's like, but Penny was a little gray poodle. And she's like, and I took her with me everywhere. And I went to go visit my sister down in Tacoma. And she's like, and the first time I had to babysit her dog and her cat. And I don't remember their names. It was something very catchy, but the email was very, very detailed. And she said on there, it was an email, it was a message on Messenger. And she said this first time that she went there, she knew there was something going on, but she was gone a lot. She kept having to go to work, and then she would come back and go to work and come back. So she was driving back and forth. Like she was dedicated to helping her sister. Right. And so she's like, I worked at a dentist's office and I had to go, whatever. She goes, and at that time she lived in Tacoma. She did, before she moved to Seattle and got a different job. But she's like, I was living there, and she goes, and I had to drive across town to go to my job. And then I'd race back home or back to my sister's place, or whatever. But I stayed there with the animals because my sister was adamant that I didn't. She had a cat that was sick, and she didn't. She had to take like drops and do all kinds of stuff. And there were a couple times when the cats and the dogs would get riled up, like something was chasing them. And she saw this shadow that looked like it was crawling, not crawling, but like stepping out of the window, and it was all black. And then she told her sister, she's like, you got something in this place, man, And her sister's like, well, I think it's you. She like jokingly kind of teased her. She's like, I think we always tease each other. She's like, I think the shadow is after you. It's not after me. But then she went to go visit, and she was there for a couple days for the weekend. And there was a softball tournament that they were going to go be in or whatever, or that they were in. And she said that night, she goes, we go back, and I was just exhausted. She's like, I had filled in for my sister's friend, She's like, and I was 25. She's like, but I had asthma. And she's like, and I was not taking care of myself, like as far as the asthma, She's like, and I had left my inhaler, and I was lucky to be alive. I had an asthma attack. Mm-hmm. And she's like, just to be on the safe side, took me to the doctor, and they said everything was fine. She's like, and then that night I went to sleep, and my sister kept checking on me. And she goes, and at one point at 3 a.m, she woke me up, and I was like, what do you want? Like, she's like, how even though somebody's taking care of you and they're helping you, you get kind of agitated with them. You're like, why do you keep bothering me? And she goes, I look up, and there's this black thing standing in the doorway, and she sits up, and she's like, her eyes adjust, and she's like, I could see it by the lamp in the, like, out in the hallway, the light in the hallway, and there was a lamp down at the end of the hallway, and then the room. And she's like, and it's not my sister. And the next day she asked her sister, she's like, my sister was asleep. She's like, so the next day they went out and they did some stuff, whatever. They went for a hike. It was really beautiful area. You've never been to Tacoma. It's really beautiful. It's nice. And there's a college there. I think is it Washington State? Look it up. It's either Washington or Washington State's there. But anyway, they went for a hike, or a jog, whatever. Because she goes, and my sister was very protective. She's my older sister. She's like, her and my brother, I was the baby. They always looked out for me, She's like, but I was 25 years old, and I was just not taking care of my health like I should have been. And she's like, and I would just like leave and not take my inhaler. And my mom and dad were like, look, this is very important. You need to take care of yourself, whatever. And so she didn't really listen when her parents would lecture her. But they lived in Spokane, but she said that her sister would tell her, look,
It's University of Washington.
It's Washington,
Tacoma,
right?
yeah.
The Huskies, yeah. So she said, look, you need to start really taking this seriously. So they go for a jog or whatever. And sure enough, she needed her inhaler. And her sister told her, she's like, I was thinking about what you said. And I do think there's something in our apartment, in my house, whatever. It wasn't the apartment, it was a house. Because she had moved, whatever. And she said it was not a house, like a townhome, whatever. Like I guess is that an apartment? I don't know, house, whatever. She's like, but I think that it was in the old place that I was in. I think it followed me. She's like, I think you're right. She's like, and then she told her, she says, I don't remember it in the old place, but I remember since you've been in this one. But when she was living in the old place, she's like, I only visited her one time, and it's from Spokane. I was with my mother, and so we were gone the whole time doing stuff, and we had gone up to Seattle. And she goes, I fell in love with Seattle, and I decided to move up there. Now, she also says that she's not real comfortable with some of the people in Seattle. I told her, I was like, yeah, because some people in Seattle are not that nice. So, I was reading the email, and I was like, yeah, I can see that.
Not known for their kindness.
Yeah, they're not. They're really not very nice people. And so she said that she was like thinking about leaving or moving, whatever. And I said, well, whatever you do, don't go to Portland. That was my advice back to her when I messaged her back. But she said that she was like, the next night after they had talked, they had a long talk. And while they were talking, they heard 3 knocks on the wall from the bedroom that she was going to go and sleep in. It's a 2-bedroom place, whatever. So they go upstairs to go to sleep. She goes into her room, and then her sister goes into her room. She's like, the minute the lights were off, she heard something fall. This is creepy, from the dresser. The dresser had like a mirror on it. She goes, and there was a light that came from outside. They had like the lights, because it was like these townhome apartments or whatever you want to call it. I don't know if they're considered homes or apartments or what they are, but townhomes. There was like a little, like a bunch of them, right?
Yeah.
And she said there was a big light that was on there. And so the light came through, and she's like, and I'm like, I see this, what I thought was I thought my sister had put a bunch of clothing like on the dresser that would just look like a big mass, like a lump.
Uh-huh.
She goes, and then I hear boom, like something heavy fall. And so she was like, I was like, Jessica, because her sister's name is Jessica. She's like, try to yell to her. And she's like, Jess? No response, no answer. And she's like, she had just closed the door too. She goes, and these walls were not that thick,
Yeah.
She's like, she goes, I hated it because she's like, her boyfriend, her being there, I could hear them. She's like, they'd be talking and stuff. She's like, I could hear them talking about their business.
Yeah.
She's like, I couldn't stand it. She goes, and her boyfriend was not there. It was only like 10 o'clock at night. She's like, we were tired. Boyfriend got off work at 11. He worked 3 to 11. He was about to come home. So she thought maybe it was him. She looked at the clock, and she's like, it's 10:20. He's not even off yet. So she's like, okay. So she decides to roll over to go to sleep. And then she feels, oh man, I don't know what I would do. She's laying on her side. She feels something start to pull the sheet, and she's like half asleep. So she goes, she goes to grab it and pull it back. Her little dog is growling, like just won't stop. She's been doing it for like 2 days. And she's just like, she sits up, and then she turns and she looks, and she when she turns her shoulder to look, she sees this face, like just right there on the side of her bed. And she's like trying to make it out. She could tell it's a head. And when she sees it move, then she knew it wasn't just like it was real, like it was really there. And she was just like, and then when it moved, there's like this light kind of coming in at an angle. She's like, when it moved a little bit more to toward the end of the bed, she's like, I saw something come up that looked like a leg or something, or a wing. She goes, I couldn't tell what it was. It was like something came up like kind of quick. And she's like, what the heck is that? And then it stood up. And when it did, it literally lifted up the mattress and the bed. Everything just kind of came up and came back down. She's like, and it bounced me and I fell off of the bed. She's like, and then this thing is on the floor and it's pulling me under the bed. She's like, and I kick, and when I kick, I felt, this is what she said in the email. She said it was like a message. She's like, it was like nodules. When she kicked, she could feel like little bumps or grooves, as she put in the message, on the head of this thing. Then she crawled. She said, I'll be moving. She don't live there. It's her sister's place. So she crawls and she goes and gets back up on top of the bed, and she's reaching across the bed for her phone. The dog is barking and freaking out, and she can't figure out for the life of her why her sister cannot hear all this. And then this thing crawls and gets on top of her and is pressing down on her. And she's like, at that time, she goes, I was in pretty good shape. I just didn't, I didn't have my asthma under control, and I was starting to have an asthma attack. And this thing said something to her. It was speaking, and to get this, she's like, I've heard you talk on the show about this. She goes, I know now what it was speaking backwards. Because her sister left a recorder on in the house, a digital whatever, and it captured all this stuff. And her boyfriend, who's he's a believer in Christ, right? He believed it. He took it, and it was Latin backwards, and it was saying like all this blasphemous stuff. And so whenever it was on top of her, she could hear it. She knew it was like weird, because even though she didn't, it was like gibberish. She knew what it was saying. And it was like saying, I'm going to kill you, B word, basically. But this wasn't in Latin. This was in English. But she knew it, just knew it. Like it was saying that. It was breathing on her. She said the breath smelled like feces mixed with like, wet dog blood and some like trash. Like it was just gross. Like the thing smelled terrible, like sulfur and body odor. And she said it was like reptilian. Like she could feel the scales on it. And when she turned to try to it kind of lifted up and then was like laying her down. And it was trying to do something to her. It was trying to push her legs and stuff. Yeah. And she was fighting it. And she goes, and I was just like, and finally she goes, I calmed down. She's like, I look up, and this is crazy. She says, I look up and I see this ball of light. It's like a blue ball of light, just kind of moving. And it's like this soft blue. And she's like, and then it just starts to kind of like spread out around the room. She's like, and in the middle of it is this white light. And she goes, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm like envisioning this or making it happen or if it's really there. And she's just like, I'm looking up at this light. And she said that she began to pray, like seriously pray. Like she was like, God, please. And she said this, she says, my boyfriend at the time, we were separated. We had gotten back together. We had separated. And he had told her how to pray. And she's like, it's just like you said on the show. It's like, she's a listener. This is an actual listener to the show. And she's like, and I said, this is just how Josh Turner says to pray. And it says, pray to God through Christ. And she's like, God, I come unto you in the name of Christ. Please help me. And there was like this gentle female voice that said, say it out loud. And she did. And when she did, this thing began to like turn and look. And it was like a demonic gargoyle looking face. The nose was kind of hanging down, but the nostrils were flared up. And she said she could see it, and its lips were real pronounced. And it had this bridge, like this brow line that was like sloping, down. The eyes were red and demonic, and the ears were pointy. She said like a goblin, like a reptilian goblin looking thing. Very muscular, very strong. And it was just like telling her to stop. And then it went to put its nasty clawed hand over her mouth. And as she began praying, and she kept saying it out loud, she's like, this thing started to sort of like crumple up. And it was dissolving. And she could feel it like trying to claw her and scratch her, but it couldn't. And the more she prayed, the more emboldened she became. And the dog just kept growling and snapping and biting at it. And eventually the dog just sat down and was staring up. She's like, and I look over and I see Penny, and she's just looking up at the ceiling. And whatever this thing was like, it just dissolved into like this white ball, like in all this dark energy. You could see it coming off of it and going out the windows. She's like, it was crazy. She's like, and then after all that, then her sister comes in with a towel on her head. She's like, I was taking a shower and I heard all this commotion. What's going on? She's like, oh, nothing. I almost got essayed by a reptilian demonic creature, but God took care of me. Thank you. You can go back to sleep now. Thank you, Jess.
We just had a reptilian demonic incubus in our house.
Yeah.
By all means, dry your hair.
Yeah.
That's what's important. Did you use conditioner? I hope you did. You know you're not supposed to use a shampoo every day, right?
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Hold on.
Did
you wash your pits?
So she had that happen to her, and she said that was it. She, but that's the only story that I got from her. I don't know if she had any more or anything, but that one I definitely. Now I had messaged her and told her that if she's in the chat, I don't know if she is, but yeah, I told her I might be telling your story this on the show, but it kind of leads into that because the guy from Galveston's story was something that grabbed him and took him out into the water. And I can't remember what I was going to say when you were talking about those police or whatever. I think it's like this. I think that those beings that do these things, they take people into uncharted territory because you're not supposed to go there, right? And they're not really supposed to be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
They're not supposed to be doing that, but they're taking you because they're predatory and they want energy. They're predators and they're parasites at the same time. And so this will lead us into our next encounter. Let me get the notes for this real quick, folks. Oh, yeah. This one's crazy. So I know a guy named Douglas. I think he goes by Doug, but I always tell people I'm going to call you what I'm going to call you. I call him Douglas. You ever seen King of Queens?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Yeah.
Jerry Stiller?
Yeah.
He's like, Douglas.
With the hands every time.
He's like,
Always
I'm going to
scheming.
need $35. And
Yeah.
Kevin James is like eating cereal. He's like, no.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, that's a great show, man.
Yeah.
Kevin James, Leah Remini, and of course Jerry Stiller, awesome. And there's a lot of other characters on there too, like that. What's his name? His buddy, the black dude. He's funny.
Oh,
Deacon.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Deacon, yeah.
That
I love
is
Deacon.
his cousin,
his wife.
Kevin James's cousin or his brother plays his cousin,
Yeah.
Danny. But that's actually his brother in real life, his younger brother. But he don't like him. He's always like annoyed by him or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a great show. Have you ever seen The King of Queens? I talked to somebody the other day, Juiceland, and the guy was like, I've never seen that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah, because you're in your 20s. You don't know what that is.
Well, that's not an excuse. I'm in my 20s. I've seen it.
Well, yeah, you, because you've been around us.
There's not a lot of sitcoms I would
I've been around.
recommend, but King of Queens is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
Because they're usually kind of lowbrow, but King of Queens is really well written.
Oh, it's good. It's a good show. I think Kevin James is really funny, but him and Leah Remini are just really good together. But yeah, King of Queens and joking aside here, this is crazy. So Douglas reaches out to me and he says, I'm a remote viewer and I have a crazy story to tell you. That's all he said. That's all he said in the email. So I didn't respond. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
When you want to give me some details, I'll reach back out. And I just didn't.
By all means, tell me.
Yeah.
Sitting
I
here
was
waiting.
like, big gulps, huh? Well, see you later. So we end up not talking for like a year. And then he messages me back one day and he says, hey, you were on the show and you were talking about these spider entities. He goes, I would love to come on and talk about this, what I know about them. And then around the time I finally got back to saying, hey, why don't you come back or why don't you come on the show, whatever. And he's like, no, dude, I can't. I'm busy. I'm traveling, whatever. But I will message you all the information and you could do it. So the quickest I'd be able to get him on the show to come out and talk about this would be the end of June. So I decided the 400th episode's coming up. We're going to do a paranormal potluck like we are tonight. It's a shame we only got 600 people in here because they're missing out. This is a lot of stuff going on here. And maybe we'll get more that'll come and listen. But this is what's crazy. Like he messages me and he tells me this big long whatever. So I call him and I said, you have a number? Because if you've messaged me and you know how it goes. Like I might get a number from you, and doesn't guarantee that I will call you because I have a lot going on. But if I can remember and I have the time and I bookmark it, I'll call you. And so I called him. And he's on the West Coast. At that time, he was on the West Coast. Actually, now he's like he went on the East Coast. Now it would be, I don't know what that would be. Not really East Coast, but like he's more East. Let's put it that way. But he was living on the West Coast at that time. And so I was like, oh, it's 11 o'clock. He's, it's too late, And he's like, are you going to call me? And I was like, where are you at? And he was like, yeah, I'm here in Northern California. I said, okay. So I called him. And it's crazy because the conversation almost didn't happen. I was just going to like finish doing my work and then go hit the patrol, do what I got to do. And then we ended up talking. And so we talked, and I said, look, hey, I was like, your information you were talking about, these spiders, it's very interesting. So he was part of a group of people that they're amateurs. They're not military, anything like that. But he goes, we learned how to remote view very well. Now he's 15. He's exactly 10 years older than me. He was actually born same month, everything. He's 10 years older than me, a little over 10 years older than me. And he goes, we did some weird things. He goes, we this is what he says. We went into, I don't want to say the name of the base, but there is a base, an Air Force base in California that is known for having Bigfoot and aliens and other weird stuff. And like I said, I'm not going to say the name of it, but they went there by astral projecting. So he did these techniques. His best friend's dad worked for a government agency. I'll just say that. And they did experiments on astral projection and remote viewing. And his friend's dad taught his son about it. And the son built this group. Oh man, people are already saying it. Saying names. Well, that's saying names. I don't mean that that's the base, right? Anyway. So they remote viewed all these different places, and he goes, they have sentinels. They will absolutely guard those places, and if you go there out of your body, they will come for you. They are literally moving around on that astral plane, and they are there to protect whatever it is that they're there to protect, and they will come for you. He goes, if you enter into their territory. Mm-hmm. And he goes, when we went to this particular Air Force base, he goes, they came out real quick and they chased us out of there. And he described a couple of these beings as looking like human, military people, whatever. He's like, but they also had this one creature that, and he says creatures, what he called it. He said it looked like a wraith, like a Grim Reaper. And it came out and it chased them. And he says, as I got better at this, he goes, I began to be more like into this. He goes, I started doing it nightly. I was leaving my body and I was remote viewing and I was doing all these different things.
That's dangerous.
Very dangerous. And he says that at one point he went to Argentina. He's like, when I was in my 30s, I went to Argentina because I was dating this girl. He's like, and I kind of chilled out on all that. You know, I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to do that for a while because he had something really scary happen to him when he went to a base down in, well, let's just say this, it's near a mountain. And I told him I wouldn't even talk about that because he thinks that they earmark you, like they know that you're a troublemaker or whatever. Mm-hmm. So he goes to Argentina and he's like way down in the south of Argentina where it's really cold. And it was his girlfriend at the time, she was from there. And she told them that she told him that her dad had been to Antarctica because it's not really that far. I mean, it's down at the bottom of the world, right? And he told her, he says, I've been to Antarctica. They got really, really close to it. And these guys came out wearing black with guns and basically, you know, came out and tried to board. Well, they did. They boarded their ship and told them, why are you this close to this? This is off limits. And they were wearing UN flags. Mm-hmm. So she started talking about it and he was talking about it. And he had taught her how to remote view. So she was like, you know what? Why don't we remote view Antarctica? So he didn't do it while he was there in Argentina. He goes, but when I come back to California, he's like, I get the group together. He goes, and there were 3 other people, 2 of the people that I was doing it with, they wouldn't do it anymore. And one of them had passed away in a motorcycle wreck. Which oddly enough, we were talking about Portland earlier. It happened right outside of in Portland, Oregon, years ago. But he said that, you know, he goes, we were, there was still the old gang. We got together and he goes, and we focused our energy. He's like, and we went to Antarctica. And he's like, and what I saw shocked me, dude. He goes, we went into this spot in Antarctica that was like down in the. Hold on one second. Hold on. Dude. I lost my place here. All right. So, anyways, so they went down into this like cavernous area, and he knew they were in Antarctica because there was ice everywhere, and there were people that looked. It looked, his words jokingly, he goes, "It looked like Hoth from Star Wars." And he goes, when we go down in there, he goes, we were out of our bodies, we were traveling, and he's like, these entities immediately came out, but they weren't what we thought they would be. They looked like white, large spiders. He's like, and there was like a nest of them, and they were crawling all over the place. He's like, and they could see us. He's like, they looked completely physical, and they could sense us, they could see us, and they began to chase us. And they would like run in midair. One of them would spin like a web, and another one would crawl on it. He goes, and there was like a pack of them, and they were crawling along this tunnel, like in the top and the bottom. He's like, and they just would come flying out at us. And he goes, and so we ended up back in our bodies, and we were all like, what was that? What the hell was that? And we just projected into like a, and he was like, how can a spider live in this cold climate? That doesn't make any sense, right? How you doing, Rob? Hey, Rob, by the way, I got your Lions hats. I just got to do the mail offs. Tonight, we are doing a giveaway. 4 people are going to win because it's the 400th episode, and we're going to give away hats, and we are going to be the mailing off tomorrow or Tuesday. So if you're part of the Patreon, send us your information so you can get your stuff. We're going to have to designate a day later in the week so that we can send off all the tumblers. We have a lot of work going on right now. We have fire watches. So because of the hail, did some damage and stuff, and a bunch of people are, so we also need to everybody who's won to make sure you submit your information to tonight. Make sure you submit it, because if you won tonight, hopefully we'll be mailing out by Tuesday, and you'll be getting your stuff pretty quick. So stick around for the giveaway tonight. So this is what happened. They ended up like going back into their bodies, and he goes, and then everybody just kind of talked a little bit, and it was weird. And they all went home, and he thought that was the end of it. Speaking about, we're staying with the theme of monsters under your bed, right? He's asleep in his bed, and he feels something poke him, like kind of like tapping him, like on his arm. And he kind of does like this, and he's like, what is that? And he thought it was his cat. He had a cat, and his dog would sit at the foot of his bed, but it would go in and out of his room and in his whatever. And he was like, dude, I thought it was something like, tapping me, whatever. My girlfriend would sometimes stay up later than me. She was more of a night owl, so she'd go downstairs and go and watch TV, and then she'd come back up. He goes, so I thought it was her. I look over, she's not there. He's like, so I just went back to sleep. He's like, and this tapping continued. He's like, and then finally I hear this kind of like noise on the floor. He goes, and I sat up. He goes, and I realized there's something moving around the floor in the corner of the room. It's large. It's bigger than my dog. And his dog was big. He had a really big dog. And he's like, it was a mutt, but it was a big dog. And he says that this thing, whatever it was, moved across the floor really fast and then went up the side of the wall. It was just kind of there. He was like looking at it, and then he realized when his eyes adjusted, he was terrified. He wanted to turn the lamp on, but something told him, don't look at this thing. Literally, a voice inside of him told him, if you turn that lamp on, your heart is going to fail you. Like the Bible, right? Like,
grotesque.
Your heart's going to fail you, because of what men are going to see, these things. And he goes, I took my hand away, and this thing turned and looked at him, and then it just like flew at him the same way that those creatures did when he was in Antarctica. When this thing got almost to his face, he was like looking at this. It was like this spider. The only way he could describe it was like an ice spider, like this crystal-looking spider that was, and it was so gnarly looking. These spindly legs. It was really big. He's like, and then this guy, like just like a humanoid shape, like a shadow. It started like a line. He goes, I'm not kidding. He goes, physically in this world, it looks like a line, and then it just like expands and then turns, and like this guy comes out of it, and he's wearing like this mask, and he's holding something. And funny because I'm wearing the Ghostbusters shirt, so I thought this would be interesting. But he like zaps this thing, and it pulls it towards it, and then it turns into like this ball, and then they both disappear into this door. He's like, the next day, he goes, I'm in shock. He's like, I cannot believe what I just saw. I'm like, did I really see that? He goes, I told my girlfriend. And she's like, the next day we're at this like local coffee shop. He's like, and this guy walks up and slaps on the table, slaps his hand on the table, and he goes, we need to talk. And he looks at this guy, and he's like, I don't know who this is. Never seen this man in my life. He's just a tall, Caucasian man, about 6'3", big, tall guy. There's another one behind him, and they're wearing these like blue suits. And he looks at this guy, and he goes, and he's like, I'm still like trying to ignore this dude and looking down at my phone. He grabs the phone. He goes, you don't need that. And he's like, we need to speak. And he's like, pretty sure he knows what this is about. So his girlfriend, they take her. They walk off by this car. He goes to the other side of the car. They're standing there, and the guy's like, you need to stop. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He goes, you had a visitor in your room last night. See, that's what happens when you do things that you don't know what you're messing with. You don't know what you're playing with. You shouldn't be doing those things because you're going to get hurt. And he's like, well, are you going to hurt me? He goes, if I have to. And he told him, he's like, who do you work for? He goes, don't worry about it. It's not important. He's like, just know that we work. And he goes, and this guy had like sunglasses on. But the weird thing, he's like, his right eye, he goes, you know how when you look at somebody, you know, well, this is my take on it. And he didn't say this, but this is what I gathered. When you look at somebody, you can't focus on both eyes. Typically, you kind of have to look one eye or the other, right? Or you'll kind of go back and forth. He's like, I kind of started to focus on his right eye, and I realized it was like this red dot going back and forth, getting bigger and getting smaller, but only in the one eye. And he was just like, what the freaking heck are you? He goes, and I'm thinking this, and the guy goes, don't worry about what I am or who I am. Just know that I'm here. He goes, and we know what you've been doing, and if you don't stop, bad things will happen to you. He's like, bad things. He goes, I was young, and I was a smart ass. He goes, and I was like, define bad. He goes, more than you could imagine. He's like, not just physically. Because he goes, I'm not afraid to die. The guy told him there's worse things than dying. So this dude was like, you know, he goes, think of your soul. And then he goes, and he gets in his car, and he goes, you don't even understand what that is. And then they drove off. And his girlfriend was in shock. She was crying. She was freaking out. And she's like, what did we do? Like, we shouldn't do this. He never did it again, ever. Now I asked him. I asked Douglas. I said, let me ask you a question, Doug. Did you keep doing it? He goes, yeah. He's like, I waited about 10 years. 10 years. He goes, I didn't do anything. He goes, and then one night I was in a hotel in San Francisco. He's like, and I was convinced that my wife, and he was no longer with this particular girl, the Argentinian girl. He's like, I was convinced that she was cheating on me. So I remote viewed it in the true sense, not like these people who go, I'm getting a hit on some shit or whatever. He was very adamant about that's not real or whatever. He was like, nah, dude. He goes, he goes, I can actually go and view things through time and space. There's techniques for that. And he offered to tell me some about it. And I was like, I'm good. I don't even think I want to know. It's like, the less I know about it, the better. Let's just say that. Because if it happens, it happens. But I'm not just going to go, and I'll defend my territory, but I'm not going to go run around. I don't want to go to Antarctica. Just so you know, powers that be, I am not going to Antarctica. I'm not playing around with no spiders in the snow. We're good. Okay? We're not doing that. I'm not even. People tell me crazy stuff all the time. I take it with a grain of salt. All right? I just go, oh, okay. Don't be getting it twisted. But this guy, he basically told me, he's like, dude, and I remote viewed her. She was in Sacramento. He goes, and she was cheating on me. He goes, and I busted her. I stone cold busted her. And I told her, I was like, I know everything you were doing, who you were doing it with, what you were just in vivid detail. She kept lying and denying it. So then he knew the guy too. So he called the guy, and the guy admitted it. But his wife kept lying, because he thought he was going to take the kids, and he didn't take the kids. They got joint custody, and he just went on his way. He goes, I'm married now to someone else. He goes, I'm, happily married now. I think he said he's been married like 10 years now or 12 years, something like that. But he said, dude, he's like, I couldn't believe, well, he didn't say dude, that's my words, but he goes, I couldn't believe that these people, like the minute I did that, like they must keep tabs on you. He goes, I get this phone call, and this guy was like, you did it again. And he was like, who are you? And he goes, don't worry about who I am. He goes, that's it. He goes, you got what you wanted. He goes, you didn't do anything to, they kind of like didn't say it, but the impression that he got, that he was telling me, was like, they were just like, okay, you did what you did. Do it again, see what happens. They give you a pass on this one, because they knew that he was just trying to check out what his wife was doing. He goes, I just wanted to see what she was up to. He goes, yeah, she was up to no good. Now you know. Don't do it again. So after that, he didn't do it again for a long time. And then a few years ago, he remote viewed something else for somebody that he got paid for, and nothing happened to him. And I said, well, that's weird, Douglas. Why did nothing happen? He goes, because it was probably for a wing of them.
Oh, so someone approached him.
Yep. And they asked him to do it, because because there are certain people that have this ability naturally. And he had been leaving his body accidentally since he was a kid. Now, here's some backstory on him. When he was 6 years old, he was playing t-ball, and he hit the ball, and the ball, like when he went to hit it, it kind of like foul tipped and went back and hit him in the head. And he goes, I don't even know how to this day how that even happened. He's like, but I ended up getting hit in the head. He's like, and I fall backwards. He goes, and I go into this spiral. He goes, and I'm falling. It's like this gray spiral of like smoke rings or something. And he goes, and I end up falling, and then something grabs me out of the darkness and pulls me into this light. And then it tells me, it says, it's not your time, go back. And it shoots me upward. And then I'm like, I pop up, and everybody's just like, whoa, what the heck? And so they're like, Doug's okay. He's okay. He's like, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm just dizzy and disoriented, and he's hurt. So he has this weird ability that has been going on for most of his life. His earliest memories were of coming out of his body and watching his mother change his diapers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one time it happened to me.
Yeah, but you're not him. Get out of here. We're talking about this. Somebody real, not you. All right? I'm kidding. Yeah, but that is something that we've been told a few times from people. We've had guests say it too. But like, it's a weird thing though. Like, so this guy has had this happening since he was a child. Like, this has been going on.
Yeah.
And so, when you stop and you look at this situation that this guy has had happening to him, he said, it terrified me when they threatened me. He goes, because I'll be leaving my body on my own, but it's something akin to astral projection, but it's also like, thank you for saying that, Wedge. But it's also something that's like remote viewing, like he can see things too, where he's not really participating. He's just watching it happen, but sometimes he's involved in it. And he said something else too, and this is interesting. He's been to the city of night. And if this wasn't the 400th episode where we got to go on to the other stories, we would talk about that tonight, but we're not going to talk about the city of night tomorrow though. Scorpion, if you're listening, you come on tomorrow night. Dick Richards will be with me. He's my co-host on Mondays now. And Scorpion, you will, if you want to, you can talk about what you know about the city of night, but this guy had some really interesting things to say about the city of night. It exists. And he was like, I listened to some of your stuff about it. He goes, and I agree. But yeah, interesting story. What do you guys think of that? I mean, this isn't the first time I've heard of these spiders in Antarctica or in the inner Earth.
Mhm.
You know, there was a lady that I talked to from Kentucky who had told us about these crystal spiders in these caves. You remember that? She talked very slow and deliberate, you know.
Yeah,
But
there
she
was
was,
this spelunker who,
and there was a
yeah.
spelunker that told us, yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? What are your takes on that?
Well, I'm trying to figure out, or I guess postulate on the guy who approached him and gave him a warning.
Yeah.
So,
He's weird.
I mean, obviously that this was not, to say the least, this was not a normal human being, if he was even a human being at all.
Cyborg or something, you know? Like,
But see, the thing was, like, whenever he warned him, like it was almost like kind of a kind way of warning him. Whenever he told him, "Think of your soul," you don't even understand what that is.
mhm.
I mean, if this person or this whatever this being who warned him was an agent of evil, why would it tell him that? And so it makes me think, like, what is this being's agenda? Like, I mean, it's obviously not something very good, but it doesn't strike me as someone
Well, it could have
committed
had
to evil.
they could have had orders though too.
Yeah.
Do you think
don't
there
know.
is a neutrality, a neutral side in which things kind of something that just kind of operates?
You know how people like sometimes like people will truly believe that they're doing something for the greater good, and so they kind of adopt this end means justify the ends mentality.
Yeah.
Well, you know, as if as above so below is if as in the spirit as in the flesh, then maybe in that world beyond that these non-human beings that they kind of have like the same mentality too, where like they're not necessarily like agents of darkness, and maybe they truly believe that they're doing something for the greater good, but their methods make it to where like they're just like they're very, very dangerous. You know,
Yeah, I mean that makes sense because
it doesn't mean they're demonic, but you still don't want to mess with them or be around them at all.
no one does things for the sake of evil. I don't believe. Like if people do things thinking
Well,
they do evil things, thinking
I
they're
mean, evil
correct.
people do, yeah.
Percy Red says I remote
But you
viewed a
have-
few times, and then
But
when somewhere I shouldn't, and this man in black appeared and told me not to do that. I used to do it all the time as a child, but that scared me.
But oh, and so and this guy that he didn't seek out this ability. Like he didn't do anything to hone it.
Mhm.
He's just been doing it his whole life, right?
He had been doing it his whole life, but his friend's dad
Mhm.
worked for a government agency who taught his son. When he
Okay.
retired from the military, he taught his son how to do it, or his son learned. I don't know. I don't know if he was really clear about how that went down, but yeah, he was friends with this guy his whole life, and his dad worked for the military.
But he didn't learn
Yeah.
it from him.
He already knew how to do it,
Okay.
but from what I take on it, but his friend really helped him hone his ability.
Yeah.
And then sadly, his friend was the one that died in the wreck,
Yeah.
which we still don't know because now here's another thing too. When I asked Doug about that, I said, "What about that? That seems weird." He goes, "Yeah, it was strange." He's like, "I remember at the funeral, his dad was just staring off into space, like he was just like." I said, "Do you think maybe his dad felt guilty? Like maybe he caused it or something? Maybe."
Mhm.
And he goes, "That I don't know but his dad didn't cry. He just was just staring blank off into space while his mother was just in tears."
No.
And the guy died when he was like 30. He was young.
That's sad.
I mean, he was young, but he said, "Yeah, he was like 30 or something like that."
The guy who gave us this story, maybe he was actually given some leeway and was given a warning because like he was going to be a useful person later on, you know, as which you know, like you said, these same people had approached him later on and actually paid him to do like some remote viewing work. Whereas maybe if it were anyone else who didn't have his ability, maybe they would just get their silver cord cut and just be gone.
Yeah.
You know? Like he was like a means to an end. You know, like he could serve a purpose. You know.
Yeah.
So maybe it wasn't even, it actually wasn't a mercy to warn him. The guy was probably just trying to warn him in that moment because he knew at some point we're gonna have to use you. So you stay away from this for now, because if you keep playing around with it, then you're gonna be destroyed, and we can't make use of you when we need you. Also, the fact that after he was warned not to remote view anymore, that he did it again, and this being immediately knew.
Yeah, that was weird.
So, you know how like
it wasn't immediate though. It was like a few days later or something. He got a call about it.
But you know how
immediate.
But you know how like if you're in a spider's web, they can sense you through the vibrations.
If you touch a single strand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what he saw in Antarctica were these spiders.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, maybe there's a connection there. So there's something there that makes it to where like there's some kind of connection that goes from that guy to these people, these entities, to where they can sense what he's doing. Like if he's doing that particular thing, then that vibration goes off like a fly vibrating a spider's web.
Well, I think it's something similar to like the no-fly list, where like if you get caught, you get put on the list, and all of a sudden now, if you come back, you're just going to be pinged.
Yeah.
Because I think like
it's like you're blacklisted.
Yeah, because like you have a spiritual presence, and like you have to have
Like
like
a
a
signature.
spiritual identity or signature. Yeah. So like I'm sure like you leave that trace as you do things, especially if you don't know what you're doing, so you don't know how to hide that trace. So like I'm sure it's not difficult once they figure out what that trace is for you.
Yeah.
And that might be why these creatures are able to find you no matter where you go. It's not that like you just have a signature, a unique one for like everyone does.
Well, it's also because they're not 3-dimensional beings, they're 4th-dimensional beings. So it's like if we're here in this 3-dimensional world, like to get from here to here, like instead of going through a straight line, they could just fold that and then to be there instantaneously. So like it's like instantaneous travel for them.
Well, you also have to think too is that we're not like, I know you're Anthony because you're called Anthony, and when I look at you, I can associate your name with your face, right?
Mm-hmm.
These beings, they don't have to have a physical face. They don't have to have anything identifiable.
No,
they could be just a mass of tentacles or anything, really. So, like, to identify them without having, like, I guess a trace would be almost impossible, because they don't have to have an actual form. So that would make sense to have like a signature or something like that.
Yeah, you'd have to get, maybe it's like a certain vibrational frequency, like a very unique one. In the same way that like if you want to tune into a certain radio station, like you have to turn the dial to synchronize your radio to that signal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, we got a huge donation.
Yeah,
thank you, Rita.
Oh, thank
you,
Rita.
She's always coming.
Always so nice.
That. She's a special person that always helps out. Spilling tea, thank you. She's a moderator. And
thank you, Shade. Everybody.
So for sure, thank you for always helping out. Yeah, I just, one of the things though, because this isn't the first time, and I'm sure it won't be the last time that we've gotten stories about Antarctica or spiders or remote viewing or any of this other stuff. I mean, it's just a plethora. It's just so much of it.
Yeah.
I saw a map today. Now, we already had the show. I'd been working on planning the show out for a few days or whatever. And, but I got a lot of work to do. I got a lot of things. I had to put the book on hold. We're trying to try to get some stuff done there so that we can get it out. But I've had so much work going on with my job that I've had to kind of put things on hold. And we're selling some property. So there's all this stuff we got going on. And then we got the ranch, and I'm in limbo on a lot of stuff, and I'm just kind of like in this holding pattern, but the show is not one of them. The show is it flows, and so I was trying to work on it today and just trying to get it finished up and what we were going to talk about. And actually, a couple of these stories I didn't even plan on telling. I was just like, they're there. I'm just going to throw them.
Well, the one you read, I mean, I know for that one definitely you didn't plan on telling.
Yeah,
but it was good. I mean,
yeah. So so we have this, stuff going on. There's all these things going on, but the show just seems to be almost like I'm being guided. I'm not even going to joke, man. I'm telling you right now, it's meant to be.
Mhm.
This is just happening because it has to happen. And I'm not going to sit up and say it's divine providence or whatever. People can say divine providence. I don't know. I get messages all the time. People telling me, I've even had people telling me that they've had dreams about it and that this is the way it's supposed to be. I don't know. I don't know 100%, but go ahead.
I think it's just that once you find your path,
Fix it for a bit. There you go.
once you find your path and you're walking down it, you know that. And it's like you feel oneness with the fact that you're going down the correct path. And having that certainty is difficult for most people. But like I think it's because you feel like you're guided, but in actuality, you're just doing exactly what you're supposed to.
Yeah. And thank you for saying that, Tito. Yeah, I look at our path here at PRT, and you look at 400. That's 400 of like almost always at least 3 hours.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sometimes 2.5, sometimes 5.
I think we set a record by like almost 6 hours the other night.
Yeah. So it can go on and on. I mean, we just and that's the great thing is that the main thing is the information gets out there. This is not a money-making venture. I can tell you that. I mean, it's not. We don't make a lot of money. But we do, I think we've changed the community in a lot of ways. We've set standards, and people can say what they want. They can attack us, and people love to attack you and then claim that you're doing it to them. Like, we're not doing that to anybody. We're not trying to. And I say this, and I say it with and I say this with all sincerity. I think when you're on the right path, the devils try to hamstring you. They try to pull you down. They want you out of the way. You're a pain in the butt. They don't like the truth. They don't like anything coming to light. And you are turning over rocks and you're exposing things to the light. So we're going to continue with that. We're going to talk about that. Now, here's another one. If you think that Dogman only exists in the woods, or maybe in the desert, like I got a story from one of the 3 stories I got today was in the desert. This person was literally miles away from their Jeep, and they were being chased all over the freaking desert. Can you imagine that? Being stalked by something that, thank you for that, Pam Jensen. They can only be described as like, I don't want to say Dogman because this thing could have been a skinwalker because it was in the deserts of Arizona. And now she is Native American, and get this, she had her dog Spirit with her. So, and he's a Spitz mix, or I'm sorry, she's a Spit mix. Very sweet dog, but that dog really helped her a lot. It was a white dog, and she said that this thing that came out after her, it was crazy. Anyway, I'll get into that if we have time. I read that whole story, and it was pretty crazy. Really long story, but thank you for sending me that. Okay. And but this one's crazy. This one came from, and get this, her name is Brooke, but her nickname is Brooklyn. That's funny because my cousin's daughter is Brooklyn, right? And so we know a Brooklyn. But anyway, this woman's name is Brooke, and because she was born in Brooklyn, her friends nicknamed her Brooklyn. And so her parents started just calling her that, and her friends that she made volleyball with. So lucky for her, her family had the good sense that God gave a rock and said, hey, get out of New York City. So they moved to North Carolina, right? They moved to North Carolina, and they were there until she was 15. Then when she was 15, her parents sadly got divorced. Her dad moved to Texas, where he was originally from, Houston. He moved back. She's like, I finished high school in Carolina, in North Carolina, and then I moved to Texas. She's like, and then I worked with my dad at this firm that he was working at, and then eventually, she's like, her dad was a lawyer, but she said eventually, she goes, I finished law school, I did what I had to do, and I worked with my dad, and then I decided I wanted to go back to New York. She's like, I've only been there twice since I was a kid. My mom's family's from there. And she's like, and so I decided to go to the Big Apple and see what it was all about. Here's the interesting thing. She gets this apartment, the little nothing apartment. It costs her like thousands of dollars a month because it's super expensive to live there. The lady that rented it to her was this half Dominican lady. And she tells her, she says, look, she's like, where I'm from, we talk about this. It's like we consider it to be like a curse. She's like, this, she's like, the lady that lived here before, she was practicing like brujeria, as we would say in Spanish. She tells her that. She's like, and the people that were across the hall saw things. And so she just kind of leaves it at that. Brooklyn didn't really believe in that. Brooke was like, I don't really subscribe to that. I've never had any kind of whatever. But that wasn't exactly true, because there was one night when she was in her teens, when she was young in North Carolina, something happened. She didn't remember it. So often happens. I hear people say this all the time. And I spoke with this person, and she says, when I was living up in this high-rise apartment, she's like, the first week I was there, I was unpacking, talking about spiders. She opens up one of the boxes, and this huge tarantula crawls out and is right there on top of the box. And she's like, it's in the like middle of winter. It's like February. Mm-hmm. And she's like, where did you come from? And then this thing starts to kind of vibrate and then jumps onto the floor and then runs toward the wall and is gone. It didn't go under anything. It didn't go over anything. It just went into the wall. And she was just like, what am I? Did I just see that? The only person that she knew was she had one friend that she knew there. And she didn't give me the girl's name. But she's like, I called her up and I'm like, hey, can you come over? She comes over. We pop a bottle of wine. She's like, and we kind of celebrate. She's like, she was my childhood friend and we both like reunited. And she's like, and I'm living in Manhattan. She goes, I have a very good job. Very good job. She's like, and my mother was getting ready to fly in. She was going to be there with my stepdad. She's like, and I was like excited. Everything was great. I had called my dad and told him, hey, Dad, I'm over here. I'm moved in. Everything is great. It's going well, whatever. But she said that she felt uneasy. So she tells her friend, I think she said her name was Jennifer. I'll just call her Jennifer if it's not. I don't think that's correct, but I'll say Jennifer. I don't think it matters. But she told her friend Jennifer, she's like, Jennifer, I saw this spider come out of one of my boxes and I was terrified. She's like, and then it crawled away and it went toward the wall and it disappeared. She's like, it was black and white. And she was like, really? She's like, yeah, it was a tarantula. And she's like, so her friend starts trying to look up. This was not too long ago. This was like 2018, something like that, or 17. 17, 18 when this was going on. But she said, she goes, her friend like looks it up and they don't really find any black and white tarantulas that would be living in Manhattan. She's like, are you sure you didn't? She's like, maybe down in Texas, She looks it up in the Houston area where she was living. There's nothing. I don't know. How did this happen? What is this? So the only thing she could figure is, she drove through all these different states when she drove up there with her stuff. Mm-hmm. Maybe when she stopped somewhere, something crawled in somehow. When she goes, but I wasn't opening the U-Haul that I was in. I don't know how this could have happened. She goes, but I don't think it was physical. And she tells her, she goes, it crawled through. But she goes, the landlady, the one that rented out the place to me. Well, she wasn't the landlady. She was the what do you call that? The management. Disclosed to her, hey, look, just between you and me, that there was somebody, I want to tell you this so you won't get freaked out, but there was a person that was living here that supposedly was doing black magic. And the neighbors were freaked out. Weird things were happening. So she got evicted. So I just don't want you to be, if something happens, because this woman is half Dominican. And she's like, on my mother's side, she's like, we believe in this wholeheartedly. And she's like, okay. And she says that was nice of her to tell her that. And I can't remember. I don't think she told her that when she first moved in. I think it was after. Okay, I kind of messed up there. Sorry about this. It was after she had the spider incident. That's when she talked to the lady, and that lady told her that. That's when she called Jennifer and said, hey, I had to talk with the landlady and the lady that's in charge, you know. And she told me, you know, hey, there was a woman here that was doing this, and I'm not going to lie to you. And so she said that if it gets worse, something, you know, I'll let you know. She goes, you know, there was another person that stayed there briefly between her and the woman that was doing the witchcraft. And they were only there for like 4 days, and they couldn't stand it.
Dang, is that bad?
But then everybody that came into that place for like 2 months rejected it, didn't want to stay there, even though it was cheap compared to like some of these other places. She's like, you're not going to get a high rise in Manhattan, right? And she said that eventually she said, I looked around a bunch of places. I was looking around in Queens and some other places. I'd have to drive a long ways, and then I'd have to or commute. She's I couldn't do it. And so she said, I had to do it. So she goes, it was getting to the where I had to make a decision. I couldn't just keep, you know, living in a hotel. It was expensive. And so she said, rent is not cheap there. She's like, so I take what you can get, ghost or no ghost, right? But this girlfriend of hers, this friend of hers, she told her, she says, look, she's like, I've been in this area for a long time. She goes, and all these buildings are haunted. She's like, you're going to have to deal with it. You know, if there's something going on, you know, just like, so she just said, you know what, that night, she goes, I went to sleep and I just decided, you know what, hell be damned. I'm just going to stay here. And if something happens, it happens. She goes, the last thought she had that night before she drifted off to sleep when her friend was there, this was like the 4th or 5th day she was there, right? She's like, how bad could it be?
Oh, man.
Yeah. And so I told her, I said, Brooke, it could be bad. And she goes, oh, it was.
Yeah.
She goes, it was.
Well, I know that now.
She's like, I wake up in the middle of the night and I hear a screaming, like a screaming. And she's like, I sit up. She goes, I don't have any pets. I don't have nothing in this house. She's like, my cat, I left him down in Houston with my dad and my stepmom. She's like, I'm just like, I don't have anything. There's nothing that could have made that noise. She said it sounded like a woman mixed with like a howl. But she gets up and she walks over to the kitchen. Most of her stuff's still in boxes. And she's like, she has the coffee maker out. And she's like, this was going to be her first day at work. And she's like, it's like a Wednesday. I'm already like, you know, starting in the middle of the week. And she's like, and so I was just tired. It was 4:35 a.m. She's like, I had to go to work in a couple of hours. She goes, and I was just, you know, so I goes, I got to try to lay back down and go to sleep. So she's like, she makes a cup of coffee. She goes, I don't even drink it. I was like, had it to my mouth and I put it down and I'm like, I'm tired. I can't do this. She goes and she lays back down. She's like, she goes, almost to the minute like my head hit the pillow, I hear, psh. She gets up, she walks into the kitchen, and there on the floor is the coffee mug, broken and on the freaking whatever. She goes, I couldn't believe it. She goes, I could not freaking believe it. She's like, now get this. This is interesting. Also with the shirt I'm wearing too. I thought this was going to be an interesting story to tell. She's like, I wake up and I'm late. There's no way on earth I'm going to make it on time. I'm going to be at least an hour late for my first day. First day. My dad helped me get this job. She's not even going to lie. She's like, my dad totally helped me. She's like, and I wake up. She's like, and the TV is just on and it's blaring. And she said, get this. It was Ghostbusters 2. And it was like the last scene on Ghostbusters 2. She's like, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, that's interesting. But it gets even weirder. After her first day, her boss was really cool. She was just like, hey, it happens, you know, it's, you know, and she's like, I'm nervous. I'm sorry. I didn't realize how bad New York traffic was, you know, blah, blah, blah. She made up all these excuses. So then the day ends, she goes home. She gets home. It's like 6:30 at night. You know, she's like, it's cold as hell. It's toward the end of February. She's like, I go into my apartment and the TV is on again. She's like, and it's the beginning of Ghostbusters, the first one. And she's like, what the freaking heck? She goes, and I'm living in New York And she goes, and you know that theme song, da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Like I was like, that's why this episode I was like, I have to wear the shirt. There was no way. I don't know if I've worn it before or not. I can't remember, but I was like, I had to wear it. It was too good. And she says, and I hear this, and I'm going like, what in the heck? And my friend told me how these apartments are all haunted, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. She's like, and he goes, I'm thinking about it. She goes, and I hear a voice that comes from like the dining room area. It's like, this is not a real big, it's like one big room, pretty decent size for what she got. She's like, there's like a dining area, and then there's like the kitchen, there's a restaurant. That's it. There's nothing. That's it. That's all you get. And she's like, and I hear a voice saying, she's like, you know, said something about like how bad could it be? You know, it's and whatever. And it says, oh, it'll be bad. And she was like, what? Like something answered her question, you know, like said something in confirmation. So she stands up. She goes, and I'm like holding the remote. I throw it on the bed, and I'm like, is somebody here? And there was no answer. She's like, and then I go into the bathroom, and she goes, and I hear a man's voice audibly on the other side of the door. Yes. And she was like, she's like, I'm not going to lie. I was getting ready to get into the shower, and she's like, and I was like petrified. She's like, there is a man in my apartment. I just heard it. I know what I heard. And she was just like psyching herself up. She's like, I have no clothes on. She's like, I have to go. I have to throw my robe on. She's like, and I was like, she's like, and I'm like, my cell phone is on the bed. She's like, and I'm there. There's somebody that just answered me. She's like, who is it? No answer. She's like, I counted to 3, and I wanted to open the door, but I couldn't. She's like, so I did it again. Couldn't bring myself to open the door. Finally, she just said, she just pulls the door open. She jumps out of the room, and she tries to be as brave as she can, but she's like, I'm 5'4". I'm not going to scare many people. She's like, I'm 125 pounds. I'm not going to be, you know, I'm not going to be boogeyman, you know. She's like, especially back then. She's like, I've gained a little weight since, but I'm not like big. And she's like, who's there? Nothing. She looks around the apartment. She don't see anything. She's so freaked out. She goes and she starts running into the kitchen. She's digging through the boxes. She pulls out a knife. She's like, and it was like a steak knife. That's all she's like, it's all I got. She's like, and I go back to the bathroom and I close the door. She's like, I'm losing my freaking mind. She's like, I look in the mirror and I'm talking to myself. She's like, okay, I'm freaked out. I'm just freaked out. See the spider come out of a box. She goes, I don't know what's going on. There's something here, obviously. And then she gets in the shower and she hears a full-on conversation going in the other room. She could hear it. It's like a full-on, like somebody's talking and they're arguing and you hear all this and it's in Spanish. And she's just like, what the heck is that? Now, her mother is half Puerto Rican, right? Her mother grew up, she could speak Spanish because her mother's mother was full-blooded and she lived in New York. So her grandmother's there, right? And so she was planning that weekend to go visit her grandmother. And she was like, I don't speak Spanish. She's like, I look like a white girl. I'm totally not like, you know, like Hispanic. She's, I'm not even Hispanic as you are. She's like, I'm like a quarter, you know, I have no real connection to it. She's like, if you look at me hard enough, you could tell I am, you know, whatever. She's like, but you know, I don't speak it, nothing. And so she's like, but she knows what it sounds like. And she goes, and it sounds like two like Hispanic people, like Puerto Ricans talking real fast and like they're arguing, a man and a woman. And she goes, and I go to open the door and she's like, there's nothing there. And instantly it stops. And she's like, at this point, she goes and lays down on the bed. She can't get comfortable. She keeps thinking about what the lady said about there was like a witch that had lived there, done things. She wakes up to hearing like the flapping of wings right outside of her window. And she thinks, well, there's pigeons or whatever, but it's cold as hell. And she hadn't seen any life out there. She goes up to the window and she hears this flapping and she looks up and she sees something kind of moving away from the apartment and going up to where she couldn't see it anymore. And she was like, what the heck was that? She goes, it wasn't overly large. It was probably the size of a medium-sized dog. But she was like, what the freaking heck did I just see? What was that? So she goes and she lays back down, and she's like going into that where she's like half awake, half asleep state. And she hears like a grunting, growling noise. She's like, I was so tired. She goes, I just crashed out. I didn't even bother to wake up and like to look at what it was. I kept my eyes closed and I pulled the covers over me. She's like, and I prayed and it stopped. That was it. She's like, the next day, she goes, I wake up, the apartment, the whole apartment smells like wet dog. And she's like, what in the heck? She's like, and so she goes, I just leave. I go to work. She goes, I come back. Thankfully that night, the next night, because I asked specifically, I was like, so what happened the next night? She goes, nothing. She goes, nothing happened the next night either. And then on the weekend, I went to visit my grandmother in Queens and I hung out with her. And we talked and she hugged me and was so happy to see me. She's like, and we just had a great time. My grandmother cooked and her grandfather had passed away already but my uncle showed up and he was there, my mom's brother, and everybody was like, oh, it's so good to see you. His kids came, you know. She's like, and we had a great time. It was awesome. She's like, and I stayed there and my grandmother made empanadas. Those are really good. And some plantains and some other things. She goes, and we ate traditional Puerto Rican food. And she's like, I was there all weekend. She goes, Sunday evening, I had to leave and I told my grandmother goodbye. Her grandmother stops her. She says, Mija, we need to pray. She's like, oh, everything's fine. She goes, no, Mija, it's not okay. Not everything is not fine. She's like, you're just like your mama. You deny the reality, the real reality, which is funny. We talk about that on the show. And she's like, tells her to sit down. She's like, I know you've told me a little bit about what's going on. She goes, she tried to like obfuscate, change the subject. And she's like, it's still early. You don't have to leave in a hurry. It's only 7 o'clock. She's like, tell me. She goes, we end up talking. And then by the time, the next thing I know, it's like almost 9 o'clock. And her grandmother tells her to pray with her. And she gives her a rosary and some holy water and tells her, you need to be strong. Gives her the St. Michael prayer. Smart. She's like, she goes, there is something there. She goes, I had a dream that something was coming after you. She's like, yeah. She goes, it's a ghost. She goes, it's not a ghost. She's like, it's a type of demon, but it is not what you think it is. She goes, those people, they were dealing drugs. And she's like, and that woman was living up in that apartment. She was big time up into this kind of stuff, into this brujeria, whatever. And she says, and they were using this demon to terrorize people. She's like, and in my dream, she goes, I watched it destroying 2 people. This thing can kill people. And she was just like she goes, this is heavy, right? And her grandmother says, so she prays with her. She goes, don't be afraid. You're going to be fine. I'm going to pray for you. She's like, I'm going to go to the church. I'm going to light candles, all this other stuff. And they had gone to the church earlier in the day, in the morning, whatever. She goes, and her grandmother's like, I'm going to keep lighting candles. I'm going to do what I got to do. I'm going to help you. She's like, she's like, my cousin had a curse on her when she was young. She's like, and when she was in Spanish Harlem, she was unalived. Something horrible happened to her. We never found out what, but somebody had cursed her. She don't think that the person that unalived her had anything to do with the curse, but it was like that person put the curse on her, and it's like a spiritual hit.
Yeah.
And boom, she's dead. She's like, I want you to be safe. She goes, I'm going to come and check on you on Wednesday. All right. I'm going to come and see you. So her grandmother decided so when she shows up on Wednesday, she's got like a blow up mattress, and the grandma's like, I'm going to be here with you. In the meantime, she had this dream, which was on Tuesday. She goes, Monday, everything was kind of fine. Went around the house, holy water on the corners, everything. She goes, I had a dream. She's like, and in this dream, I was a little girl. I was 13 years old, and we were camping in North Carolina. She's like, and this bear came out of the woods. She goes, and we were all screaming and crying, and it was this Girl Scout camp that we were at. She's like, and then I realized this is a dream, but I'm witnessing something that really happened. She's like, and I'm looking at me and my 3 best friends, and we were all at this Girl Scout camp together. and we saw this bear. She's like, it came out of the woods. It looked like a bear. She's like, but then it stood up and it looked like a man, and its shoulders that were kind of hunched in came back like that. Well, my words, not hers, but the shoulders popped back like a man. She's like, and this thing's head turned and tilted, and it became more human-like. She's like, and then it roared at us, and it chased us on 2 legs, and we were all running around, hiding, running in different directions. And one of the camp directors fell and went unconscious, and this thing literally jumped on its back and hurt this guy. She's like, we talked about it. Everybody was like telling the story of what happened, their version of it, whatever. The guy fell and he got attacked. They said he was bit by a dog. He was bitten by a dog. She's like, I immediately wake up. I sit up until the morning, and then I call my mother. My mother's still in North Carolina. She answers the phone, and she's like, Mom, when I was 13 years old, did I have, she goes, my mother didn't let me finish. She goes, are you talking about the dog that attacked the camp counselor? She's like, yes. She goes, and you said it wasn't a dog. You said it was a bear. And everybody laughed. And she's like, Mom, why am I not remembering this until just now? She's like, I don't know. You didn't want to talk about it, and we didn't push the issue. And she's like, Mom, I just had a dream about this, and I saw the whole thing. It was a monster. It was like a demon. She's like, yeah, and you were brave. She's like, according to you and your friends, you ran right up to this creature and began to scream and yell and get its attention, and it chased you, and you ran into the bathroom. And the thing was too big. It couldn't even fit through the door, according to you. She's like, I don't remember that. I just remember, what I saw in the dream. She's like, Mother comforts her. She's like, she's freaking out. She's having these weird thoughts. While she's talking to her mother, the coffee pot that she uses to make it shatters. And she hears a voice, but it was just like garbled. It wasn't anything intelligible. And her mother's like, Brooke, what was that? And she's like, Mom, there's something really weird going on in this place. I'll call you this afternoon. She goes, please do. Her mother didn't wait. Her mother texted her and said, are you going to be on your lunch break? She says, yes. She goes, call me on your lunch break. She goes, I got a lot of work to do. I got to catch up. But she did. She found a time, 30 minutes, to call her mom. She's like, I'm like eating a real quick salad at the cafe downstairs. She's like, and I run back up, and I'm like on the phone with my mother. My mother's like, look, she's like, we need to talk. When you get home tonight, you talk to me. So she has this 3-way conversation with her aunt, her mother, and her grandmother, and they're all talking. And while they're talking on the phone, they start talking about this incident. And the aunt was like, you don't remember? You were so terrified after that happened. You came and stayed with me. She's like, in Magnolia, Texas, you came and stayed with me over there in Houston. This is her dad's sister. I know where Magnolia is, in East Texas. And she goes, you don't remember that? And she goes, and then one night, this werewolf, as you called it, looked in the window at you, tapping on the glass, and you looked at it, and you screamed. You were like, Celia. That's her aunt's name. Her aunt comes in the room and is like, what? She goes, and all I see is black with like red dots that looked like eyes, but way too far. What was that? But like way too far apart to be anything other than like an enormous head of something. She's like, and what I thought were like horns on this thing or something, just like a shadow. She goes, you said they were ears. And she's like, yeah, I remember that. While they were talking, she goes, I remember that. She's like, and then while they were talking, the phone line has this static, and it's like this garbled whatever. Her grandmother, her abuelita, that's what we say in Spanish, she's like, that's it. She's like, that's it, mija. I'm coming over there. She goes, I'm coming over there tomorrow. This was like Tuesday, right? She's like, I'm coming tomorrow, and I'm staying with you. We're going to stay with you until we get to the bottom of this.
Grandma will come to play.
Yeah, Grandma wasn't playing. Grandma, she goes, all 5 foot of her. She's like, she's 4'11". She says she's 5 foot, but we'll give her that. We'll give her the inch, right? So she says, I'm coming. I'm going to be there. She goes, and my grandmother. She goes, my grandma wasn't playing around. She goes, my grandmother came armed to the teeth with every kind of holy relic you could imagine. And she goes, she had silver, and she had salt, and she had all this stuff. And she was just like praying all these different prayers. And she was like, my grandmother, we went and we bought a chair, and my grandmother just put it together herself while I was at work and just sat there watching me in this little rocking chair while I was asleep. And then she would sleep while I was at work. And then I'd come home. We'd be up for a little while together. And then I'd go to bed. Grandma was up all night. And the grandmother, she comes in, and the grandmother is literally like just white as a sheet. She goes, I saw it. She's like, I saw it. There's an entity here. They left it here. She's like, I saw it with my own physical eyes. She's like, it looks like a wolf, like a giant black wolf. She's like, and just like smoke, and it's like a wolf. She's like, that night, she goes, I couldn't even sleep. She goes, I kept hearing this like something rustling in the next room. My grandmother had her eyes closed. She was just holding the rosary praying. She's like, and I wouldn't believe it if I didn't see it with my own eyes. She goes, and I look over and I see this swirling smoke kind of moving in between the kitchen and the dining room. She's like, and I see this head of this creature. She's like, and I remember the thing that I saw at my aunt's house outside of Magnolia. She lived out in the country in the piney woods out. You know where it's at? Mm-hmm. Out there near Pinehurst, in between, or Tomball, that area.
Yeah.
She's like, my aunt was very powerful too, spiritually. She rebuked it in the name of Christ. She's like, and then after that, there was nothing else. She goes, and we went walking through the woods. And she said, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. She's like, nothing can stand up against God. We have God with us. She's like, these are demons. She's like, and she was the one that taught me about the Nephilim and the fallen angels and what they are and all this stuff. She's like, and I kind of subscribe to it. She's like, but I literally saw a bear-like creature attack a man. And they all just said, oh, it was a dog. And she goes, no, it was not a dog. She's like, and one of my friends, the other two blocked it out like I did. But she goes, one of them said, no, I remember it. And it was bear-like, not wolf, not anything, but just whatever. But that incident may have opened her up to something else. She says that wolf-like thing over there, she thinks that was something that was native to that area. She was not the same, and it did not come from North Carolina. She was very adamant with me about that. And she said, this thing over in the apartment, it wasn't them either. It wasn't this. She goes, but when you, and I know this, and she was cognizant enough to know, she's like, once you are exposed to this, the darkness, whatever, it's there. Like you're there with it. You can see it. You can smell it. You can touch it. It knows that you know. Because they live on a certain frequency, like a lower vibration. There's spiritual rules and laws. They break them all the time. They're not supposed to do what they do, but they do it anyway because they're outlaws. They're lawless, right? They're of sin. They're born of sin, right? And
by their very nature, I mean, like that's what they would do.
Mm-hmm.
So the moment you perceive them, they can perceive you perceiving them.
Exactly. So what ends up happening? Her grandmother goes to work. She's like, my grandmother thinks I couldn't have done without her. My friend Jennifer comes over, devout Catholic too. She's like, I'm not Catholic, but they're Catholic. And they were like, we're going to go to church this weekend. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And so we all go to church together. We're holding hands. My aunt is so cool. She flies in. And she's like, and then my friend from work, who's an Italian lady, she's very, very devout in the faith. Something told me at lunch break to just tell her. And she was a Strigoi. Her mother was a Strigoi, like a witch. She practiced whatever. And she's like, let me tell you something. She goes, my mother was not a good person, this Italian woman that she worked with. She said, I think her name was Olivia or something like that. But she goes, my mother was not a good person. She's like, and when she died in a fire, which is still mysterious, like how she died was like ruled an accidental fire, because I don't think it was. And she's like, and it's weird that you even brought it up to me. She's like, I just felt like I should tell you. She goes, yeah. She's like, and I remember my mother conjuring something up, and we could never get rid of it. It was like Pandora's box. Once you open it, it doesn't go away. And this woman told her, she goes, I'll come over to your house. I'll stay the night, and I can tell you exactly what's going on. She had the eye. So it was like these people were kind of falling into place for her. So she had people helping her. She had her grandmother. Now she had her aunt that could see things. And she had her friend coming over and checking on her all the time. And then she made friends with this neighbor guy. The neighbor told her some stuff. Oh, my gosh. He said he was walking home from the bar. He don't even drink anymore because of that. And she said she thought he was a hot guy. Okay. She's like, a few years older than me. She's like, and he was pretty put together. She's like, and I was like, what do you mean? She goes, like he was good looking. And I was like, oh, okay. And she's like, so I was attracted to him. She goes, and I was like bringing in some groceries, and he was like there in the hallway, and we kind of bumped into each other. We started talking, and he was like it was like, she goes, something falls out of my bag, literally. She's like, I was like, oh, like an orange. She goes, no, it was celery. Plopped onto the ground. It didn't go like rolling. He goes and picks it up. Hey, now it was some celery that fell out off the top. She's like, and I might have subconsciously did that just so it would, because I kept wanting to talk to this guy. And she's like, and the guy was just like, hey, what's up? And then he's like, so you're living in this apartment? She's like, yeah. And so then he tells her, like, just volunteers. He says, that apartment gives me the creeps. I was wondering who would actually eventually rent it. And she's like, oh, yeah, it definitely gives me the creeps, too. I'm having some issues. She goes, this is then my grandmother opens the door and is like, who are you? Very suspicious, doing her job as a grandma, who are you? And he tells her, hi, I'm Thomas. I live, right, blah, blah, blah. She's like, and it was meant to be. She's like, later that night, we get a knock on the door. My aunt answers the door. We're all in this apartment. And it's not a tiny apartment, but it's not really big. She's like, and Thomas is tall. He's like 6'2", whatever. He walks in. And he's like, we had a little bit of a conversation about the weird stuff. He goes, and I feel like I should talk to you about it. He goes, I don't know how you are about God or Christ or whatever. He goes, but I prayed and something told me I needed to tell you what I know. So they start talking about it. About an hour in, the grandmother's just like sitting there listening. And she's like, he goes to the restroom and she's like, I like this guy. I like him. He's good. She gives him she goes, awesome. Grandmother never does it that quick. Never. And she's like, so he comes out of the bathroom, and just then her friend knocks on the door, and then she comes in. So she's like, we're all sitting around this table, and we're talking. And this guy, he's kind of got his legs crossed, but he's kind of nervous. He kind of looks around, and he goes, I seen something come out of this apartment that you wouldn't believe. And he's like, and I know I'm going to sound crazy. He's like, but it looked like a freaking black dog. And it was running with two legs, like the front part of it, like it was down on all fours, but you couldn't see the back end of it. He goes, and then it went upright. He goes, and I was coming home from being at the bar. He goes, and that's the night I quit drinking. He thought I was hallucinating. Somebody slipped something in my drink. And he told them this, and he said that this happened more than once. And there was a neighbor at the end of the hall, this other lady, who everybody thought was crazy because she kept saying that she saw a freaking werewolf come out of the shadows in the hallway when the electricity was out in the hallway. Because at that time, they were kind of bad about fixing stuff, So this new lady comes in, and she's there for several months, and then they start kind of fixing stuff, and then they evicted that lady that was there. And so she said, I put a curse on that place. You'll never get anybody to stay there. She talks to the lady that runs it. She's like, did that lady say that? And she says, yes, she did. She was very honest. She goes, I can't lie to you. I'll be honest. She's like, you seem like a sweet, innocent person. You're not a bad person. I don't want to lie to you. So the grandmother's there, just going through all of this. She leaves. She goes down to the pharmacy. She comes back. And when she's walking back, she looks up and she can see the lights going off and on in the apartment. It's dark. It's still early, but it's dark. Remember, it's wintertime. It's like early March at this point. She's like, at that point, she was like sitting outside. She stayed downstairs. She was scared to go back in. She's like, dude, this thing was so strong. So she goes, when I get back, me and my grandmother, my friend Jennifer shows up. My aunt is down like visiting another friend or whatever across town. She comes back. She's like, they all show up, and we're like, we all walk up together, like all these women. you know, she's like, we all just go to the elevator together. There's like 5 of us. She's like, we go upstairs and Thomas is there outside and he's like waiting. He was waiting for us. And he offered me some coffee and she goes, you know, I took it and we went inside. And she's like, and we just immediately, there was like this rush of hot air that hit us. And her friend, the Italian woman, the one that she had met from work, she was with her. And she said, that's a good thing. She said, that's a good thing. We've been praying and focusing and whatever. She's like, but over here, she walks and she goes, it's right there in the corner. And she's like, I don't see anything. There's nothing there. She's like, we all look to the corner. There's nothing. I don't see anything in the corner. And she's like, it's right here. She's like, before my eyes, she's like, I see this thing kind of look like blurry, like when, like the way people describe it, like this blurriness when you see heat.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She said one time when they took a road trip when they were young, she said she was driving, they were driving and they were in Houston and they were visiting and they decided to drive across Texas and go to New Mexico. And she's like, and then when they got out of West Texas, you know where the desert is in West Texas. But we don't have like desert. It's kind of like arid, you know, but it's not desert. But they see this, like, it's not like Arizona. New Mexico is more deserty than here, but you could see like the heat signature. She said it looked like that. I remember seeing it when I was a kid. She's like, that's what it looked like. She's like, and then I heard this, like, kind of like a, and then it was like this roar, like a lion, and it shook the apartment. She goes, and it was bad. And this thing came out, and it was just like you could see the head, like moving around, looking and observing at all of them. She's like, and only me and my grandmother and this woman could see it. Nobody else could see it, what we were looking at. She's like, and we all just started praying. My grandmother, she goes, she got down on her knees and began to pray in Spanish. She goes, we were all praying. My friend started rebuking it in Italian. She's like, we were praying all these different languages. And she's like, and then she goes, the window just breaks. It cracks. Well, it didn't break, but it cracks. There's like a crack. She's like, and then the friend, the Italian girl, she tells Jennifer, she's like, open that window, open it. She goes over there to open it. She's trying. She's like, I can't get it open. And she goes over. They both start pushing and pushing. There's like something trying to stop it. And then it cracks again. And finally they opened it. And this thing just, the pane just busted out. And then this rush of cold air leaves out. And then the apartment got warm. And then another thing too, the apartment kept, like, the heat kept going out. Like the heat was just being sucked out of it.
Yeah.
And she's like, and then after that, she's like, that was it. Like, she goes, I have had comfortable sleep. I haven't had any problems. She's like, I stayed there for 3 years, went through, you know, the pandemic, everything. She's like, and me and Thomas are together. She's like, we got together and we're still together. So I talked to him and I said, I want to know what Thomas saw, what he, you know, what went on. Talking to him was good because it gave me a perspective of her not lying, you know, and just, he said, look, man, I'm going to attest to this. He goes, her grandmother, strong person, very strong-willed woman, you know, just didn't back down, wouldn't stop. He goes, I could never, he goes, I thought I was strong in the faith. I could never have taken this thing on. The people that were there before, he's like, they were moving stuff in the middle of the night one night. And he goes, and they were throwing out a rug. And he's convinced that there was a person in that rug, that they did something to somebody in there. And so one of the neighbors had told on them to the old landlord, the old management company. And they went to this guy. They knocked on the door and they literally showed him a machete and was like, you'll be next. If you mess, you keep talking. Like, basically threatened him. He's like, this apartment is not cheap. The lady that was living there, she was like, and you could see it. He goes, she had 2 different colored eyes. And she was evil as shit. Because you could just see the 2 different colored eyes. He goes, and I just looked at her and I was like, and this guy telling me he's half Italian, half Irish. He's like, I'm Italian on my mom's side. He goes, they're just very, like, you know, that's evil.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying people that have that are evil, but that's what he said is, you know, his mother's family believe. They're Sicilian. He's like, my dad's this mean old Irish guy, you know. And he's like, dude, and he was just, and he grew up around a bunch of Italians and he acted like them, but he was meaner than they were. And they always got a kick out of him. They thought he was, but his grandmother on his Irish side, very, very in tune to the spirit world, and was like telling him, you have people that are summoning demons and they're messing around in that apartment. You need to be careful. Just stay out of their way because they're opening doorways to things that they can't even control. So he goes, and it's crazy. He goes, I look in the newspaper one day. He's like, and there were these guys that had gotten into it on the subway, and one of them had been killed. And they show a like a picture of one of the guys that had gotten arrested. He goes, and it was one of the guys. It was in that apartment. And he goes, it didn't surprise me. He goes, I couldn't say 100% that it was him. He goes, but I think it was him. It looked like him. He's like, there's murders all the time in New York. It's all the time. Bad stuff happening. It's a city. It's a big, huge city full of millions of people. But he's like, dude, it was just a horrible thing. And he said, dude, I saw weird stuff. Like one time I saw the door open. He goes, and it just for like a passing second, he goes, I saw a guy doing all fours and his head was bent backwards at a weird angle. And I was like, what the freaking heck was that? What did I just see? He didn't say what the heck was that, but he was like, what is that? But just weird stuff, dude, and he goes, and I just try to like keep my head down. He's like, and then one day I was walking out and these two guys were coming up and he goes, and they were just like big, gnarly looking dudes, man. One of them, he was bald and his whole head was covered in tattoos with numbers all over it. And he was just like, okay. And then the one guy was like, what are you looking at? And he was like, just turned his head away. And he goes, yeah, that's what I thought, just like that, those kind of people.
Yeah.
And so he said, dude, it was just so shocking. Like how everything kind of stopped that was outside of the apartment, in the building once these people left. He's like, but then when Brooke came, he goes, it just kind of started all up again. And then he don't even remember the person that stayed there for that few days between there. He goes, I must have missed it because I don't remember them. It must have been very quick, brief. He goes, but I did go out of town sometimes. He goes, I might have been in Boston. Because Boston's originally where he's from. But he lives in New York. But yeah. And we talked. He's a Red Sox fan, so am I. I'm a Celtics fan, I like the Celtics. But we were talking and whatever, and we talked about Boston. And here's an interesting thing about him, too. Tommy's an interesting guy. His mother, his grandmother on his mother's side, the Italian side, she claims to remember her past lives. It's crazy. And she was basically unalived by a guy in Boston. She remembers being like choked, and then like it was like the guy that she was with, and he got mad at her and did something to her, and that was it.
Oh.
But it was just, but yeah, so there's this whole weird like dynamic there, just crazy. Just really crazy. Now I want to end it with this. There's another story that I'm going to go to. So anyway, that's that story. Do you want to talk about that before we go on to the Bigfoot story?
Yeah, I just had a thought, like whenever we were at that part of the story where, here towards the end, where like they describe this like cold air just leaving the apartment, and how like whenever they felt that warm air, that was a good thing, like
that's what the lady said. I don't know.
Well, so heat is kind of like it's like a byproduct of energy, right? Kind of sort of. So and like cold air, I mean, technically there's kind of like really no such thing as cold. It's just the lack of heat. So like whenever people describe like when they're in the middle of these hauntings and these spirits are around them, like how the air is like cold all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's like
because it's sucking.
They're sucking up all the heat.
They are.
Because it's like all the energy in the air is like just being drawn toward them to manifest.
Well,
I'm like, maybe that's how maybe that's how that works. Because I mean, like I think that there's energy in the air around us, and like in the very like you can pull it from the air. It's just like it's not like really like a human thing, but and a fourth dimensional being can do that, and like we would perceive that as like, oh, the air just got cold, but like to them it's a totally different thing. It's like I'm charging up here so I can do something, you know, just like if something happens in like let's say the fourth dimensional plane, like the way we perceive it here is not going to be the same way. In the same way that like if something happens on our three-dimensional plane, if there's like a being that exists in just a two-dimensional world, if they perceive it, their perception of it is going to be very, very different. Like okay, for example, like this thing of wet wipes, like to us this is a cylindrical, like it's a cylinder, right? But say if you were to take this and you were to pass it through like a two-dimensional world, well, like they would perceive it just like as a flat circle. Or they would perceive it as a rectangle. It just depends on like on what angle it passes through that plane in, you know.
Well, think of it like this: how many times we've had people who have given us stories, and they will tell us, like they will say, "Hey, I don't have any way to describe this," because they don't have anything in our world to compare it to. Like, and by the same token, I've told you guys that when I've gone, you know, and gone out of my body and come back, certain places I've gone to, I can't describe it to you because I have nothing to compare it to.
Yeah.
You need to cough?
Yeah.
Just cough. Just cough, dude. Don't hold it in like, oh, I think I got the black lung pop. Don't do that. This is in Zoolander. All right. Merman, Dad.
Let's see, by the same token, like whenever we encounter a certain phenomena, like two people can encounter this like the same thing, like two different people at two different places, two different times, but they can encounter something like a being that's like the same thing, but their perceptions of it are completely different. And like going back to the same example, like if you were to press this through a two-dimensional world, and those and you pressed it like this way through that world, like one of those two-dimensional beings, they would tell you all, they would swear up and down that what they saw was just a circle, that it looked like this. But now if like some other being sees the same thing, sees the same shape, but it passes through their world at this angle, they're gonna tell you that it's a rectangle, and they would go so far even to like start arguing with each other about like the nature of what it is they encountered and how it works, or even just like what it looks like, without even realizing they're talking about the exact same thing, but they're not mentally equipped with their two-dimensional minds to fathom that this has not only length and width but depth. There's a third dimension here in which they're incapable of fathoming. That's us.
Yeah,
like
we're the same way.
Yeah, we're those little two-dimensional stick people.
Yeah, I said that before.
Yeah,
I always say that. Like, we're not perceiving. It's all perception. So here's something similar to what we were talking about. And I was going to kind of move into this, but this is a Bigfoot story, and I don't really know how you would classify this other than like, I mean, it is. Well, let's just get into it. It's not a traditional Bigfoot story, but I was going to tell one. but this was the one that we talked about, Charlotte, North Carolina. And it was about the one in the mirror. Mm-hmm. But actually, I'm going to tell this one because what you just said, there's another one I got right here that was going to be possibly. But now that we're talking about the cold and all that, this one happened in South Dakota. And this was a Bigfoot story. And this was up in the hills, the Black Hills. We've talked about this place before. And somebody gave me this story and said, when I was young, this isn't a real long one, but he said, when I was young, I was camping up in that area where you were talking about. He's like, and I had an encounter. This person wants to remain private, and this is on private land now. So I'm not going to get too far into it. I'm just going to tell you what they told me. And it's not important about who it is or whatever, because this person actually is somebody in the community. So I'm going to tell you their story. I'm not going to say their name. But what they said was they had, when they were up there, this is how they became a Bigfoot researcher. They had encountered something that looked like cold, like a gust of cold air. And then it kind of was just like a white figure that came down, like from the top of the like treetops, right? The tree. I should preface that. And they were watching it, and they were with their spouse, and she noticed it and said, "What is that?" And it was warm. It was like, it shouldn't have been cold. It was like late September, and it shouldn't have been that cold. And it was warm. And then all of a sudden they felt this cold presence, and they kept feeling it until they were out of that area. He's like, but once we got out of that area, he goes, I personally didn't see this. He goes, but my wife saw it. And she swears up and down to this day, she says in the middle of the night, something came up to her. And when she sat up, she's like, she had to use the restroom really bad. She got up and she was like, instantly, I felt like the feeling that I had to go relieve myself was gone. It was just like I was just there, and there was this bluish white light around this creature that could only be described as like a humanoidal looking Neanderthalic. That's my words, because I said, what did it look like? And he said, kind of like cavemanish mixed with like, yeah, I know what that is. And it did. And the reason I'm telling this one instead of the other one is because what you just talked about, like it sucked the air, the warmth out of the air, and it became extremely cold.
Yeah.
And at night in those hills, she said it was down into like maybe the 50s, because it had been an extremely hot summer, and it was hot that day. And she said that when this thing, when it sucked the energy out of it, but it was bad, like it was really bad. She said that she got so scared that this creature basically had told her, like mentally, like, don't be afraid. She's like, but I need to warn you that not all of us are friendly, and you need to leave this area. She's like, and then it just got warm, and then the thing disappeared. She's like, and whenever they would be walking and they would feel this cold air come over them, they would go through these patches of like cold air. She felt like the presence of something evil. And she didn't talk about it until they were well out of that area. And once they went down into this valley and she felt safe and they were walking down toward this town, that's when she told her husband, hey, this is what I saw. And so he chalked it up to being like, it was like at the time, he didn't really understand. He thought it was all physical. So he thought, oh, it's like a ghost of a Bigfoot. But not taking into account, like, this could be what they really are and how they look, what they look like. And maybe some of them aren't all evil and bad, and some of them are trying to be like helpful. And it was warning her, you need to get out of this area because we're not all good. There are bad ones here. And she said that whenever that entity appeared, like she felt it was cold and then it warmed up. But then when they went through these certain areas, where there would be like a holler where it'd be like dark and it'd be cool, she could feel like there was like this evil presence there. And something was paralleling them to their left. So I don't know what that is. But that could be, he himself didn't see it. His wife did. But it made him think, hey man, there's something to this,
Yeah.
So anyways, folks, that's the show for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think, before we go, do you want to comment on that, guys? What do you think about that? And before you say anything else, hold on. Another thing too, his wife has never seen another one, but she's felt that presence before.
Yeah.
And where they live now, they live, in the Northwest, near Vancouver. And so, she believes that they've been around, but she hasn't seen them. He's seen two. and because he's traveled all over. He saw one in eastern Tennessee, and then he saw another one in Yosemite. So, what I don't know. Why would do they appear to one person and not another? I don't know. And the next time we get a chance, we'll talk about the one in the North Carolina one. But I just thought that would be interesting to go out on with that because we're talking about it, and we have to go, folks. We have to work. Sucks.
Yeah,
really sucks. I hate my job. I'm so sick of it. I think I'm facing burnout.
yeah.
I'm just sick of it, dude. I would do anything to get out of it now at this point. I want out. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to be beholden to someone else's mistakes. Like tomorrow, I got to find out if we're going to lose a major account because of some screw up by an employee because they said some things, and I got to deal with that. Now I got to deal with it. So it's just my life now, and it's just.
I mean, you've been doing this for a long time.
Huh?
You've been doing this for a long time. I mean, we all have, but it
out.
doesn't compare to you.
I'm just going to start writing. I'm going to figure out a way to make my hands work with that. take a lot of Curamed. It's just stuff that actually it actually helps, and it's all natural. And it helps with inflammation. That way I can write, I can type without pain. Yeah, but Joel says burnout from a job is brutal. Yeah, it is. I'm burned out.
Mm-hmm.
I could literally go and lay down in the railroad tracks. I'm so tired.
Sounds preferable sometimes.
Well, back to what you were saying about like why they probably don't come to one or the other. It might just be a perception thing. Because it's like think of it like this. How many like of our vehicles do you see now that we own them? But like how many of our old vehicles do you actually see? Like, let's say, for instance, do you pay attention and see a lot of tundras or escapes or edges around? When I would have my escape, I would see it all the time. But now that like I don't have one anymore, I see them sometimes, but they're not like something.
So you notice it more. Right?
Exactly.
That's what you're saying, yeah.
So I think it might be something similar to that, where it's not like it's like a spiritual perception, maybe thing, where someone is just on the lookout more based on that, like I guess.
Yeah,
how much they feel like they're in danger, I guess, maybe.
Or maybe just it could also depend just on your state of mind at the time, because like I mean at any given time, like I mean you know we're still just human, and our state of mind is going to be very different from 1 minute to or from one day to the next, even from one moment to the next, and I think that affects your perception. Like I mean like how you perceive the world, how you perceive yourself in it, how you perceive others around you, your surroundings.
Yeah.
But what's interesting though is like I wonder how that works, because is it a more calm state or is it a more agitated state? Because there's many different people who deal with things differently, who like have different states of mind, who do it, and how this stuff will affect them in different ways. Like for instance, Wolf will still get like kind of freaked out and like he'll pay attention to it, but he's not like as affected as someone that was in some places we hear where like it hinders them from operating and doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're in a very much more agitated and like paranoid state of mind compared to Wolf, where like he's aware of it and he's annoyed by it and he'll like still mess with him, but it's not going to like it's not like something like he's actively scared of as much as someone else. So like they would have a very paranoid state of mind compared to Wolf, but they both are still affected by spirits.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it goes beyond emotion though. And I mean like I'm just kind of like postulating from some personal experience, like because sometimes my perceptions of the world around me, like the way I'm looking at the lens through which I'm viewing my surroundings, myself in my place within those surroundings, and the people who are part of those surroundings. Sometimes I feel grounded, you know, but other times I don't feel so grounded within like the physical world. Like I'll kind of have like this thought or this kind of subconscious little voice in the back of my head as I'm going about my day, like just telling me, you're here, but this is not like, not that this isn't real, but this is a sliver of a greater reality. Like there's more to this. There's something here that you know is here, but you just don't see it with your naked eye. And I'm trying to
It's like you're
explain it
slipping
as
in
well
and
as
out
I
of the
can,
matrix.
but it's hard with works. Yeah, but it's not a visual thing. It's it doesn't really depend on like whether I'm in a good mood or I'm in a bad mood, or like what kind of emotions I'm dealing with, and I don't really know exactly what affects it, but that's why I think that there's something beyond like human emotion that affects the way we view the world.
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what it's like because it's similar to what we've been talking about for past couple of weeks now. Is deja vu and
Yeah,
the other
exactly.
one. But what I feel or experience is kind of like when I'm laying in my bed. Sometimes I can't sleep, and it feels like this uncomfortableness in my own skin. And like so, like I understand what that kind of like feels like. You're kind of slipping in and out of not really reality, but like you said, it's like you're slipping in and out of the matrix. It's not a visual thing. It's more like just how like your body is. And it's like, and for me, like in that, when I feel that uncomfortableness, it's like my spirit is like getting restless or whatever. And it just doesn't feel comfortable in this suit or whatever. And it just like, there's nothing I can do. There's no position I can be in. It's just this itchiness or this like numbness that kind of overcomes me. And like, that's the best way I could describe for me personally about similar about what you're going through. But I feel like for you, it's more of like a mental thing.
Yeah, because I was gonna say like it's not really a physical sensation, but like or like there's no physical sensations that accompany that feeling for me.
Yeah, but like I think like that's why it's like it's similar, but it just affects us in two different ways.
Yeah,
but it's just being like out of sorts, basically.
mm-hmm.
So interesting stuff. So, guys, if your name isn't in green, as you can see, like the Paranormal Roundtable said that they'd get your name in green. We're not going to forget about the giveaways. Julie says, you never know how strong you are until it's the only choice you've got. I read what you were saying, Julie, about your husband. We guys say a prayer for Julie. She's running the janitorial business of her husband, who's going through Alzheimer's. Really rough. It's rough. It's I am burned out, dude. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. If you've never won before, let's start with that. If you haven't won before, just say I haven't won. Julie, I see that you're have you won, because your name is in green. Stanfield says I want to win. Stan, have you won before? Now remember, you might have won like as far back as 3 or 4 weeks ago. I think the last time I mailed out was like 3 weeks ago, because we've been behind. So we're going to be mailing off. So if you won before, you send us an email. We'll be sending it off. We'll be mailing probably tomorrow or probably Tuesday when this fire watch is ending. Paranormal Oz says I haven't. Oz, you're in Australia though. I can't. If you whatever, I can't do anything about that. Not right now.
You can still win, Julie, even if you weren't gifted. Yeah. That's just that's part of being a part of the PRT community.
I just read something funny. So tell me if you haven't won. It Stan says I've won before. Okay.
Jennifer Parr says I'm in the United States and I never won.
Okay, so Jennifer, it's just simple. Jennifer, you win. So we got 3 more we're going to give away.
Is the banner at the bottom?
Yeah, just put the banner. I got it. There is the email down at the bottom, giveaways at PRT podcast. So just go ahead and do that. Send it to that. And do it now, because we're going to mail off, like I said, probably Tuesday. So you don't have a lot of time. And you'll get your stuff pretty soon. Pretty quick. Tonight we're going to give away, what are we doing? A book and a hat, something like that, whatever. But send us your shirt size just in case, and send us your address and your handle so we know who you are, your handle, your shirt size, real name, address, whatever, because you're going to be the mail, so you'll make sure you get it. And what else do they need to do? Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Shirt size, address, and your YouTube handle.
Bionic Woman, you want to pick hers? I've never won.
Yes, definitely.
So
That's two.
Alan
guys.
House says I've won, but I never got anything. Alan, when was it? How long ago? Because like I said, even if it was up to 3 weeks ago.
Go ahead and resend an email if you haven't gotten anything.
Melissa Bailey says I have not, so we'll pick you too. There's 3.
That's 3.
Um,
One more, guys, for the 400th episode. Who's
Julie,
it gonna
did
be?
you? And now, Julie, have you won anything? Because if not, I'll send you something. But you know what? Even if you have, because of what you're going through, I'll send you something anyways. So we'll pick Julie too. So we got Melissa, we got Julie. Who else we got?
Didn't we pick Jennifer apart? Yeah, we picked Jennifer.
And we got
Bionic Woman.
Bionic Woman. Sounds like all females tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's all females. Paranormal Oz. I'm sad for you because you're he says,
You're awesome. But
You're awesome, but you're in Australia, right? I mean, so I wish I could.
So we just need you to pack up your things
It's
and
like
move.
$100 and something to ship to Australia. I'll tell you what, though, Oz, send me your information anyway, and we'll look and see what we can do. We'll see how much it is. We may just have to bite the bullet and just send it to you because it's gone up so much, man. And they use the pandemic to basically,
hamstring.
push their agenda with more, like making shipping to Britain and Australia and all these other places. Like it's super duper. Like they tripled it in price. I was like, come on, dude, really?
Yeah.
Like I don't believe it. It's just so ridiculous.
There's no
dude.
reason for it. It's
No
all a
reason for all
scam.
that crap.
Like everything else, the
They just wanna
racket.
steal your money. So get your name in green, guys. It's only $5, and you can be entered in to win. And sometimes people that have already won win again.
You still need one more?
No, we got 4.
Okay.
Yeah, we got 4. Alan says he sent his info several times and got no response. Well, you send it again. Okay. I want this guy to get his stuff. That's not right.
I'm gonna find your emails, Alan,
We'll find it.
and we'll get your stuff sent
Put
out.
your name on there, Alan, and make sure we'll give you extra because you know.
Because like our email is like full again because there's just so much stuff in there.
Don't send it to the prtpodcast.com.
No.
Please.
Yeah.
I have to empty that out every day.
Yeah, please.
We're also at the max of that thing again. We're gonna have to buy more storage because it's ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. I'm not complaining. I don't want people to stop sending their stories. I'm just saying we get a lot of people. Like you'll see on Mondays, if you watch the show on Monday, I don't know how people could say anything because all you gotta do is watch Monday.
Yep.
I think it's full of people.
Yeah.
You
But please, like any email pertaining to like
Alan says he's a Patreon too.
giveaways. Oh, okay. Well, then you can also contact us on Patreon if you're a Patreon member. But please, any emails pertaining to like giveaways, don't send them to the Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com. Send them to giveaways at prtpodcast.com. You can see it scrolling.
Here's another one.
Right there at the bottom of the screen right there. You see the little ticker? It's like scrolling. Just follow the hand.
Okay, Eve Reyes says I won January 22nd and still waiting. So that we've mailed off like
if you guys have won but you haven't received your stuff, please let us know because we can't resend things, guys, until we know about that.
Stan says I'm a Patreon too. So if you're a $50, $40, $30 tier, for sure you're getting a tumbler because there's a lot of Patreon. And so most of the $20 tiers will get one. And if we have anything left, we'll give it. But we have 50 of those ready to go. So we're going to have to ship them out piece by piece. Let us know.
Yeah.
Okay. So when it's time, when you hit your 60-day mark, we send you your stuff. That's what Patreon does. You get merchandise. And then when you hit 6 months from then, so it'll be your 8th month mark, whatever. If you stay consistent, whatever, then we give you a whole nother care package, depending on what level you're on. So you got to do it, man. That's what you got to do. The Patreon's where it's at because you get a lot of good stuff from the Patreon. So he said he sent it to the address. Well, Alan, all I can tell you is we're going to get it to you. Okay. And yeah, we'll take care of you, Alan. Don't worry. Do me a favor, Alan. If we're on Facebook together too, just go ahead and send it to me on Messenger too, and I'll lock it in. Because and I'm just going to give you the advice here. The louder you are, the more you get noticed. Okay, it's just the way it is. If you just sit back quietly and you don't say nothing, then you might get overlooked because we have so many other things. So the people that are like, "Hey, I want my stuff," and you stay with it, you're the ones that are going to get your stuff.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah. So just be vocal about it. Be like, "Look, dude, I need my shit."
Yeah.
Honey, I found our shit. I brought our shit home. This is our shit.
Yeah, because we're gonna get it to
Richard
you.
Pryor moving. Sorry for the cursing, but anyway, what were you saying? Probably not important. Anyway, folks, we're going to get out of here. Thank you for being the best part of what makes PRT what it is. You guys, ignore the hate or don't. Sometimes it's just hilarious, the things that they say. I can't stop laughing, dude. Because some of them other people have game-changing content. Dude. It's going to change the game. Because we're so afraid and scared.
It's game over changing.
We're
content.
shaking, dude. We're just
leave the light on, please.
I'm so jealous too. I just
scared
can't,
of the dark.
I can't maintain it. Can't maintain it.
Oh Lordy me.
Open mouth, insert foot. Right? It's pretty cringe. It's got to be the way it is. And if you know, you know. All right, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. We're out of here. Peace.